Do you really believe that garbage?
It's not about believing, it's a matter of fact.
So you believe.
Well, nobody else could make a decision but me because I was the president. The final decision comes to the president.
You know, it's easy enough for a Monday morning quarterback to say what the coach should have done after the game's over. But when the decision is up before you, and on my desk I have a motto which says the buck stops here, the decision has to be made.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
And I want to say this to the television audience. I made my mistakes, but in all of my years of public life, I have never profited from public service. I've earned every cent. And in all of my years of public life, I have never obstructed justice. And I think, too, that I could say that in my years of public life, that I welcome this kind of examination, because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
President?
Yep.
Mr. President, I want to raise an issue that I think you've been lurking out there for 2 or 3 weeks and cast it specifically in national security terms. You already are the oldest president in history, and some of your staff say you were tired after your most recent encounter with Mr. Mondale. I recall yet that President Kennedy had to go for days on end with very little sleep during the Cuba Missile Crisis. Is there any doubt in your mind that you would be able to function in such circumstances?
Not at all, Mr. Truitt, and I want you to know that also I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit for political purposes my opponent's youth and inexperience.
And I'm the one who will not raise taxes. My opponent now says he'll raise them as a last resort or a third resort. But when a politician talks like that, you know that's one resort he'll be checking into. And my opponent won't rule out raising taxes, but I will, and the Congress will push me to raise taxes, and I'll say no. And they'll push, and I'll say no. And they'll push again, and I'll say to them, read my lips. No new taxes.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
You're full of shit.
All right, thank you.
No, shush. Shush.
If you're tired and feeling lonely.
Every day, prominent Republicans across the country tell us that Trump was responsible for the attack on the Capitol.
I do think he was responsible. I think the whole idea was to intimidate Congress.
President Trump is responsible for provoking the events of the day.
You said it is clear that President Trump's rhetoric and actions contributed to the insurrection. Do you stand by that statement?
100%.
But sadly, these same Republicans say they will vote for him again.
You're voting for someone who you believe tried to subvert the peaceful transfer of power.
The answer to the question is yes.
Would you support him for president, even though you believe he contributed to an insurrection?
Yeah, me and 51% of America. I said that I would support President Trump if he were the nominee, and he obviously is going to be the nominee of our party.
These Republicans are suffering from partisan derangement syndrome.
You don't see this as the definition of putting party over country?
No.
At this point in the ad, I would tell you to call this number so you can help these deranged partisan Republicans. But sadly, they're too far gone.
to some wild lies, and some of what he and his running mate are saying, well, it's just plain weird.
Weird. If Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her.
Oh, it's so weird.
When he's on stage, he goes over to the flag and he hugs the flag, but it's a weird thing he does. Weird.
J.D. Vance's comments about childless cat ladies is just plain weird.
We're effectively run in this country by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made.
Donald Trump, just plain weird.
J.D. Vance, he has this idea that you should get extra votes if you have kids.
Let's give votes to all children in this country, but let's give control over those votes to the parents of those children.
He's been defined as weird.
Weird. I love you guys.
Weird.
Weird is the word here.
If you have a windmill anywhere near your house, they say the noise causes cancer.
Her and her husband have been calling you weird.
Look, I love my wife so much. Obviously, she's not a white person. It's weird.
That I was able to terminate Roe v. Wade. I was so honored to have done it. Well, I did something that nobody thought was possible. I got rid of Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade, bringing it back to the states.
Many people have asked me what my position is on abortion and abortion rights. The states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both, and whatever they decide must be the law of the land.
Donald Trump has made it clear. If you donated to Nikki Haley in the Republican primary, Donald Trump doesn't want you.
Donald Trump warns anyone who donates to Nikki Haley's campaign will be blacklisted, saying any donors will be permanently barred from the mega camp.
If you're a Republican who supports Mitt Romney, Donald Trump doesn't want you.
We're getting rid of the Romneys of the world. We want to get Romneys and those out.
And if you are a Republican and don't want Trump to be the nominee, Donald Trump doesn't want you.
Anyone who is not on board with seeing Donald Trump as the 47th president is welcome to leave.
This is the disposition of a weak, fragile man. A man whose ego is so delicate that he purges anyone who offers the slightest critique. So Donald Trump has made it clear he doesn't want us. Well, the feeling is mutual. We don't want him either. And we don't want him getting anywhere close to the White House again.
Mike Pence knows Donald Trump better than anyone else, and he knows how dangerous a second Trump administration would be.
I will not be endorsing Donald Trump this year.
Mike Pence is putting country over party, and we will too.
This is Mark Meadows, the Chief of Staff. On the line is Secretary of State. So, Mr. President, I'll turn it over to you.
The ballots are corrupt because they cheated like nobody's ever cheated before. The current margin is only 11,779. So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have. Because you know what they did and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense. And you can't let that happen. That's a big risk to you and to Ryan, your lawyer. That's a big risk. And I think you have to say that you're going to re-examine it. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, that you've recalculated.
Republicans have made their choice. Donald Trump will be their nominee. In 2020, Americans voted Trump out of office because they saw his chaos and abuse of power.
Trump becoming the first president to be impeached twice.
They saw him fail to lead us through COVID.
Supposing you brought the light inside the body.
Then they saw him lie about the 2020 election.
The only way we're going to lose this election is if the election is rigged.
And cause an insurrection.
We fight like hell. We will never concede.
And since Trump's leaving office, he's only become more extreme. He's a convicted felon.
Donald Trump convicted of 34 felonies.
He wants to use the presidency to attack his enemies.
And if you're president again, will you lock people up?
The answer is you have no choice.
He's even called for the termination of the Constitution. Trump will be on the ballot in November. We have to remember why we voted him out before, and we can never let him anywhere near power again. Republican Accountability PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
In any country, prison is where society sends its failures. But in this country, society itself is failing.
I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you. We won the evangelicals. We won with young. We won with old. We won with highly educated. We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
You crazy.
Grab him by the pussy.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Stay shut your mouth, because you don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I did.
Hold it, tough guy. I'm not afraid of physical. Hold it.
Don't sit there and tell me I'm not.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, "Fool me once, shame on you." You fool me, we can't get fooled again.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. Stand back and stand by with your shut up, man.
Last thing was Olivia Gondak. It says that I wanted to eat her pussy. Olivia Gondak. I've never said that in my life tour. I would never do that. I'm happily married. I've got more than enough to eat at home. Thank you very much.
You got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Okay. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible. I went to an Ivy League school. I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words. We now have a gun on every table. We're ready to start shooting.
By the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the same man.
Sarcastically.
That was...
Even though they're trying to impeach the son of a bitch. Can you believe that? You believe that? That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
If I may ask
Peter,
one other
ahead.
question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President,
That's
I was going to ask one other.
I don't want reality. I'm asking the question, which one is better? That's exactly what it is.
Got it on tape. What a stupid son of a bitch.
I don't like words that hide the truth. I don't like words that conceal reality. I don't like euphemisms or euphemistic language. And American English is loaded with euphemisms because Americans have a lot of trouble dealing with reality. Americans have trouble facing the truth. So they invent a kind of a soft language to protect themselves from it. And it gets worse with every generation. For some reason, it just keeps getting worse.
How stupid are these politicians to allow this to happen?
If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big
No,
guy.
no, stop it.
Is that your solution every poll?
No, sit down. Sorry, Eric. Sit down.
Look at you.
You're saying it's a falsehood, and they're giving Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts. Alternative facts. Alternative facts. Alternative facts.
Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat your.
I ain't talking politics, I'm talking life.
I ain't talking politics, I'm talking life.
All right, here we go again. Another TFP Tuesday. Today is September 3rd, Tuesday, 2024. I'm Venkat, and I am joined, as always, with the world's most dangerous political panel. And with me this week, we got MD20. What's going on, MD?
Peace, what's going on? What's happening?
All right, all right. So, I guess Ricardo is not here yet, but he'll probably be in later this week. Oh, hold on one second. Knock on the door. Here's Ricardo. What's going on, Ricardo?
I'm good, fellas. See you.
All right. All right. So we got this week, we're going to be talking about Kamala Harris's first major network interview. That was last week. We're going to take a look at a couple videos from that interview, and then we'll assess and give our thoughts and opinions on it. Did everyone get to see the interview? MD, Ricardo, did you guys get to see the full interview?
Yeah. I mean, I live streamed it last week. We all, we watched it together, and I saw the whole thing, the whole shebang.
Okay. All right. What's that, Ricardo?
Yes, I saw it. I saw bits and pieces of it when it first came on the air, and then I watched the remainder of it when I had the chance.
So I happen to, because I like to look at Fox News every now and then just to see what's going on over there. And they're generally saying that it was a softball interview. It was an interview where there was nothing. It was like pretty much they were just like it's like dull bread. Like the safest, most comfortable situation to be in. I don't know if it's supposed to be a rocky road or whatever. I mean, I just think it was just the first interview for her to just get acquainted with her and what her campaign is. But did you feel that way seeing the interview or seeing whatever parts that you've seen of the interview?
No, I didn't. I thought it served its purpose. Go throughout the past 20, 25 years of top tickets in either party, and you'll see the same interview that we saw last week. I mean, everybody's initial interview, especially when they're with their running mate, have this type of interview. This is our first major interview from the top Democratic candidate, Kamala Harris, and her VP, Tim Walz. I didn't expect anything more or less as far as what they did. Go back through history. Trump, Pence, Trump, J.D. Vance just did one a couple of weeks ago. like literally the same format of an interview. Almost identical question. Obama and Biden, like this stuff happened. Biden and Harris. This was an icebreaker. That's what it was meant to be. In the span of only a month, a little bit over a month, have we been exposed to VP Harris as a presidential candidate? What did you expect for her to be her first interview? on a major news network. So I mean, this was procedural at the end of the day. I wasn't looking at it as softball, nor was I looking at it as being Dana Bash bringing hard questions. I knew it was going to be some of the things that's been said over the past couple of weeks been brought up, but other than that, I didn't expect like more or less of anything. I just expected an introductory interview, and that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you on that. Ricardo, did you see it that way as well? As far as like how MD's saying, with it being a basic introduction.
Yeah, in some aspects, I do think it was. I mean, it is a introduction to, separating herself from being VP and being in the prime position of I'm going to be the executive leader now going forward. If there's one thing I will take away from the interview is that a lot of pundits were saying that they wish she had done the interview by herself, which I thought would have been a dangerous move on her part if she had done it. And I could see why she brought Walz. But from the talking points of what I've been hearing on various sites and so forth, it was as if they wanted her to be the primary person as opposed to having a primary secondary, if that makes sense, persons being interviewed. So it would have just been a one-on-one with her, and then she would have then called on Walz to come into the interview at some portion, or I guess the second portion of the interview segment. But that's not what they got. It's kind of like they're saying she's leaning too much on Walz, who, again, they're more familiar along the lines with, but not so much with her being by herself. I don't know if that makes sense, but according to them, that's what they got. So if there was one takeaway, I think, is that the pundits wish that Kamala would have been, more direct, more so like in servitude, more of a authority. I don't want to say authoritarian, but more of an executive person sitting in the executive chair, saying, hey, this is who I am, separate from being a VP. I'm not sitting in the chair as the person that's going to be leading the country. I'm the one that's going to be making the orders. This is me. This is how I wanted to see. I guess that's what it's kind of like a double standard, because it's like they wanted her to be more, here we go again, a manly-ish type of, presentation as opposed to what they got. So, give or take, that's what I heard. It could have, that's what they wanted from out of the interview.
Okay. All right. So let's go into the first video. I have two videos, well, 2.5 videos. But I want to go into the first video here, and let's see what we can get out of this first piece of the interview from CNN.
Madam Vice President, Governor Walz, thank you so much for sitting down with me. And the voters are really eager to hear what your plans are. If you are elected, what would you do on day one in the White House?
Well, there are a number of things. I will tell you, first and foremost, one of my highest priorities is to do what we can to support and strengthen the middle class. When I look at the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions of the American people, I think that people are ready for a new way forward, in a way that generations of Americans have been fueled by hope and by optimism. I think, sadly, in the last decade, we have had in the former president someone who has really been pushing an agenda and an environment that is about diminishing the character and the strength of who we are as Americans, really dividing our nation, and I think people are ready to turn the page on that.
So what would you do day one?
Day one, it's going to be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy. I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do to invest in families, for example, extending the child tax credit to $6,000 for families for the first year of their child's life to help them buy a car seat, to help them buy baby clothes, a crib. There's the work that we're going to do that is about investing in the American family around affordable housing, a big issue in our country right now. So there are a number of things on day one.
What about you?
Well, I'm excited about this agenda, too. As I said, the idea of inspiring America to what can be. And I think many of these things that the Vice President's proposing are things that we share in values. And the child tax credit is one we know that reduces childhood poverty by 1/3. We did it in Minnesota. To have a federal partner in this, unbelievable, I think, in the impact that we can make.
You talked about, you call it the opportunity economy. You are well aware that right now many Americans are struggling. There's a crisis of affordability. One of your campaign themes is we're not going back. But I wonder what you say to voters who do want to go back when it comes to the economy specifically, because their groceries were less expensive, housing was more affordable when Donald Trump was president.
Well, let's start with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office, during the height of a pandemic, we saw over 10 million jobs were lost. People, I mean, literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID. The economy had crashed. In large part, all of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump of that crisis. When we came in, our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today, we know that we have inflation at under 3%. A lot of our policies have led to the reality that America recovered faster than any wealthy nation around the world. But you are right. Prices, in particular for groceries, are still too high. The American people know it, I know it. Which is why my agenda includes what we need to do to bring down the price of groceries. For example, dealing with an issue like price gouging. What we need to do to extend the child tax credit to help young families be able to take care of their children in their most formative years. What we need to do to bring down the cost of housing. My proposal includes what would be a tax credit of $25,000 for first-time home buyers, so they can just have enough to put a down payment on a home, which is part of the American dream and their aspiration, but do it in a way that allows them to actually get on the path to achieving that goal and that dream.
So you have been vice president for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
The steps that you're talking about now, why haven't you done them already?
Well, first of all, we had to recover as an economy, and we have done that. I'm very proud of the work that we have done that has brought inflation down to less than 3%. The work that we have done to cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors. Donald Trump said he was going to do a number of things, including allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Never happened. We did it. So now, as I travel in the state of Georgia and around our country, the number of seniors that have benefited,
I maintain Bidenomics is a success.
I maintain that when we do the work of bringing down prescription medication for the American people, including capping the cost of the annual cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000, when we do what we did in the first year of being in office to extend the child tax credit so that we cut child poverty in America by over 50%, when we do what we have done to invest in the American people and bringing manufacturing back to the United States so that we created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, bringing business back to America. What we have done to improve the supply chain so we're not relying on foreign governments to supply American families with their basic needs, I'll say that that's good work. There's more to do, but that's good work.
I want to get some clarity on where you stand on some key policy issues. Energy is a big one. When you were in Congress, you supported the Green New Deal. And in 2019, you said, quote, "There is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." Fracking, as you know, is a pretty big issue, particularly in your must-win state of Pennsylvania.
Sure.
Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yes, and starting with what we can do on day one around public lands, right? And then there has to be legislation. But yes, and this is something I've taken on in California. I have a history of working on this issue. And to your point, we have to just acknowledge that the residual impact of fracking is enormous in terms of the impact on the health and safety of communities. Yeah, so thank you.
So would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes, and I've, again, worked on that.
Senator Harris, you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. You yourself said on multiple occasions when you were running for president that you would ban fracking. Joe Biden looked at a supporter in the eye and pointed and said, I guarantee that we will abolish fossil fuels. More taxes, more regulation, banning fracking, abolishing fossil fuel, crushing American energy, and economic surrender to China is a prescription for economic decline.
In 2019, I believe, in a town hall, you said you were asked, would you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And you said, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So yes. So it changed in that campaign?
In 2020, I made very clear where I stand. We are in 2024, and I've not changed that position, nor will I going forward. I kept my word, and I will keep my word.
What made you change that position at the time?
Well, let's be clear. My values have not changed. I believe it is very important that we take seriously what we must do to guard against what is a clear crisis in terms of the climate. And to do that, we can do what we have accomplished thus far. The Inflation Reduction Act, what we have done to invest, by my calculation, over probably $1 trillion over the next 10 years, investing in a clean energy economy. What we've already done, creating over 300,000 new clean energy jobs. That tells me, from my experience as vice president, we can do it without banning fracking. In fact, Dana, I cast the tie-breaking vote that actually increased leases for fracking as vice president. So I'm very clear about where I stand.
And was there some policy or scientific data that you saw that you said, oh, okay, I get it now?
What I have seen is that we can grow and we can increase a thriving clean energy economy without banning fracking.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. The first look at the interview here. They went over a number of things. That last part, they were talking about fracking. Let's go to MD. MD, what did you think here about the first video we looked at in pertaining to the interview?
Yeah, so the whole position, I start back from the original parts of the video. I think that she answered the questions right as far as how the economy has been streamlined through the Biden administration after COVID. I don't agree with her trying to, I guess you would say, separate, and I get it. I'm not saying I'm not, but I don't agree with her separating the questioning from Dana Bash as far as it being consolidated through the Biden administration. It's almost as if she had a hard time giving Biden the credit for what it was. Dana Bash asked her, a lot of people are upset with the economy, so on and so forth, and all this stuff that you're saying that you want to implement, why didn't you do it in your vice presidency? And it's almost as if she was saying that we did this and we did that, and then Dana Bash said Bidenomics, and she still refused to basically give Biden the flowers as far as what he was able to do. She did it indirectly, but I understand it based on the fact that she's running the campaign. At the end of the day,
do you think it's because polling may show certain terms or things about Biden's presidential run being unpopular? That's why he struggled.
That could be a factor. That could be a factor. Any mentioning of Biden may be a negative for Kamala, and that's unfortunate because if we're running based off record, that shouldn't be the case. But people are so fickle and so low information that they don't go off of that. It's a popularity contest at the end of the day. So, you know, she clearly ran down the laundry list of accomplishments through policy that Biden had. She clearly did that. But she refrained from saying the name Biden. And, you know, you take it for what it's worth. I get it. But at the same time, it's troubling nonetheless. As far as the whole fracking thing, I'm of the belief that, yes, we should have both. There should be some type of independence in regards to how we capitalize on oil production here in this country. But at the same time, we can't take away from the assets overseas, plus new ways to have renewable energy. The problem with that, and I know why she did it. The reason why she did the switch is because the Green New Deal, the infrastructure simply just not there. I keep telling people that I've had this debate on numerous of times on the other channel as far as what the Green New Deal is. I don't have an issue with the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal has an issue with who's going to be the money person, so to speak. And it's going to be a fight between whoever is going to solidify that industry versus the oil industry. For the time being, you got to have both. So at the time when Kamala was in the primary in 2020, she was trying to be more of a progressive in terms of winning over that demographic. The problem is, once she got picked with VP, she had to play ball. So from a strategic aspect, I get it. And even more so now, because now she's the presidential candidate. At the end of the day, you can't get rid of fracking. You can't get rid of offshore drilling. You can't get rid of oil production in this country until there's a solid infrastructure for renewable energy. That's just what it is. Jill Stein and all these people, they can tell you whatever they need to tell you. At the end of the day, they ain't got no vote in the race as it pertains to who's going to put the money on the table. And that's the issue with that. So I 100% agree with what she said in terms of switching her position. And she didn't really have a choice. Not if she was smart, she didn't. So you know, that to me, that's water under the bridge in terms of her switch. I get it from a political strategic standpoint.
Okay. All right. So before we go to Ricardo, I do have a video here on fracking. It's a shorter video on fracking. Let's take a look at that, and then we'll be back with it.
What is hydraulic fracturing? Hydraulic fracturing, or fracking. Put simply, fracking describes the recovery of natural gas from deep layers inside the earth. In this method, porous rock is fractured by the use of water, sand, and chemicals in order to release the enclosed natural gas. The technique of fracking has been known since the 1940s. Nonetheless, only in the last 10 years has there been quite a fracking boom, especially in the USA. This is because most conventional natural gas sources in America and on the European continent have been exhausted. Thus, prices for natural gas and other fuels are rising steadily. Significantly more complicated and expensive methods, like fracking, have now become attractive and profitable. In the meantime, fracking has already been used more than 1 million times in the USA alone. Over 60% of all new oil and gas wells are drilled by using fracking. Now, let's take a look at how fracking actually works. First, a shaft is drilled several hundred meters into the earth. From there, a horizontal hole is drilled into the gas-bearing layer of rock. Next, the fracking fluid is pumped into the ground using high-performance pumps. On average, the fluid consists of 8 million liters of water, which amounts to about the daily consumption of 65,000 people, plus several thousand tons of sand and about 200,000 liters of chemicals. The mixture penetrates into the rock layer and produces innumerable tiny cracks. The sand prevents the cracks from closing again. The chemicals perform various tasks. Among other things, they compress the water, kill off bacteria, or dissolve minerals. Next, the majority of the fracking fluid is pumped out again. And now the natural gas can be recovered. As soon as the gas source is exhausted, the drill hole is sealed. As a rule, the fracking fluid is pumped back into deep underground layers and sealed in there. However, fracking is also associated with several considerable risks. The primary risk consists in the contamination of drinking water sources. Fracking not only consumes large quantities of fresh water, but in addition the water is subsequently contaminated and is highly toxic. The contamination is so severe that the water cannot even be cleaned in a treatment plant. Even though the danger is known and theoretically could be managed, in the USA already sources have been contaminated due to negligence. No one yet knows how the enclosed water will behave in the future, since there have not yet been any long-term studies on the subject. The chemicals used in fracking vary from the hazardous to the extremely toxic and carcinogenic, such as benzol or formic acid. The companies using fracking say nothing about the precise composition of the chemical mixture. But it is known that there are about 700 different chemical agents which can be used in the process. Another risk is the release of greenhouse gases. The natural gas recovered by fracking consists largely of methane, a greenhouse gas which is 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide. Natural gas is less harmful than coal when burned, but nonetheless, the negative effects of fracking on the climate balance are overall greater. Firstly, the fracking process requires a very large consumption of energy. Secondly, the drill holes are quickly exhausted, and it's necessary to drill fracking holes much more frequently than for classical natural gas wells. In addition, about 3% of the recovered gas is lost in the extraction and escapes into the atmosphere. So how is fracking and its expected benefits to be assessed when the advantages are balanced against the disadvantages? When properly employed, this technique offers one way in the short to medium term to meet our demand for lower cost energy. But the long-term consequences of fracking are unforeseeable, and the risk to our drinking water thus should not be underestimated.
Yeah. We'll just give it a second here.
Whoa, Jesus Christ.
Like a standard kitchen match to my water, and like I said, it is unpredictable, but the methane randomly travels with the water, and sometimes it will light quite spectacularly. Just like that.
Now, Chesapeake is going to say, well, there's natural occurring methane in the wells already. What do you have? What's your reply to a comment like that?
My reply is that their post-fracking test, their own, the methane tested 0.01 milligrams per liter, and since July of 2010, it has tested as high as 64 milligrams. So obviously something has changed. And usually you can, methane, they say as long as it aerates, it's safe to drink.
All right, so there we go. Fracking. Now, I wanted to show that video so that we all on the same page as what we're talking about with fracking. It seems like there's a zero-sum gain here. We're going to go to Ricardo in just a moment, but I just want to follow up with MD. MD, do you think that, just like in the video said, it's been the last 10 years that we've really ramped up with fracking? What were we doing the other years and decades that we weren't doing it as much or at all, that all of a sudden we need this in our lives?
Well, they explained it in the video. The natural gas reservoirs that we were using with traditional expenditures of natural gas aren't there anymore. So, gotta go deeper. Gotta penetrate farther. I mean, you know, look at the negatives, but you know, it is what it is. Like I said, ask Ricardo used to live in Canada. Ask him. Yep. Is he all right with that? Because what I would suggest to you, Van Cat, is you go to Canada, and then when that cold hits you, then ask about that natural gas again. So it's a pro and a con to it. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it should be other avenues, of course, but you can't take away what the necessity is when it pertains to the natural gas. That's just a fact.
I don't know, man. I think that there were other ways.
Says the guy that lives in West Palm Beach.
No. I'm just saying. It just seems to me that we had opportunities to looking into alternative energy measures decades ago. Jimmy Carter put the panels on the White House. What did Reagan do when he first got in there? Tore those panels right off. There was a way, and we would have had all that time and experience in cultivating other means of energy production way back when to completely avoid this scenario. So now you have a thing that you have to latch on to like a symbiote, literally venom. You gotta need it while it's slowly killing you at the same time. That is the most backwards mentality I've ever heard of. That don't make sense. Why are so many people having cancer and all these other ailments in the drinking water, in the food that is created in large part from the water? Because to make meat, the cows have to drink. To make vegetables and whatnot, you got to water the plant. Again, so we've corrupted the thing that we need to live from. I don't know why we made this decision that some white old guys making profits were more important than logic. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
go ahead, Ricardo.
Real quick, it's not about some old white guys making the profits. It's a select group of white guys that's making the profits. What I say is that's not capitalism. True capitalism is the expansion of the market. That goes hand in hand. That goes hand in hand with the Green New Deal. If the Green New Deal is to be successful, you have to. It can't be Exxon and Chevron and Mobil, all the same companies, just doing something different, because you're gonna get the same result. We have to have competition in order to solidify the productivity, the innovation, the excelling of what we consume, what we use. That's the only way to do it. So that's the flaw with the Green New Deal. We don't know who's going to take the reins, so to speak, in terms of who's going to make it work. And I think we're in a conundrum when it comes to being holding to a lot of these big oil companies, because that's the reason that we're getting this stuff now, because they're in control. We got to figure out a way to get them out of control. The only way to do that is to expand the market.
And by the way, this is not just a one-off. This is not one thing. There's multiple things. There's all kinds of other issues with certain chemicals, forever chemicals and whatnot, that we also have to deal with. So there is no chance, man. We're already past the point of no return. It's over. But it's just crazy that all these issues are linked to corporations, because the corporations are the ones that dump chemicals into rivers and blah, blah, blah. I need to do an episode where we're dealing specifically with the companies that did it and the chemicals that are out there. But this is a ridiculous thing, from cooking pans and whatnot, and the issues there that we don't understand. Just regular Reynolds foil paper, that's an issue. Heating with that is an issue. The containers that are in certain fast food companies that they use, those are toxic. Like, there's a whole bunch of things, and we're completely poisoning ourselves just doing the most basic, mundane things in life. And you don't realize the dangers of what is going on. It's crazy. But let's go to Ricardo. Ricardo, your viewpoint on this.
Yeah, so there's quite a few bits of points and few takeaways that we have to go into in regards to fracking. and the alternatives. I feel like it's one of those things that people love talking about. Oh, fracking, fracking is fracking that. But like MD said, it's now gotten to the point where the natural gas is so embedded, so deep in the earth. Well, if we're gonna do science, there's a lot that I got to go into, so I can't with the whole mantle and all that crap. But the deep precipices of the earth, it's like they have to drill so far in that it's not penetrated enough. See where I went with that, MD? Let me stop my dirty self. But
I got you.
it's one of those things where now I keep, and this was the same thing the last time during the previous election back, where Trump had came on stage and did this whole but you're so against fracking, Biden. The thing about it is, and this is the same issue that Canada had, there's natural gas. The problem now is the alternatives of having to pump the damn natural gas out of the ground. When you do all of that, and based on how the video showed you, there's a lot of pollutants that come in to play here where the natural drinking water gets affected, the environment gets affected. And there was a huge issue with the Alberta oil sands, because most of you are not aware, Canada has one of the largest deposits of natural gas on Earth. It's concentrated in one area in Alberta, which is a province, kind of like a state, like you would say a state here in the U.S. And in that one particular area, they've been drilling for years. Like there's such a huge deposit. I think it's up to close to like probably concentration of 12 trillion or somewhere close to that figure that they're drilling each day. Every time they pump, it pollutes the environment. And what seems to have been becoming a natural occurrence is that the Aboriginal or the First Nation people that are in that area gets affected. Now, I was fighting that even showed it in the video where the lady was like lighting a match to the water and it lets a flame every single time. That should terrify people. But with that being stated, though, the world is so concentrated in terms of how populated we've become. We've become so overpopulated that we need natural gas. We need, what are the alternatives? Because then we're not Germany. We haven't done so much. I mean, we kind of did a lot of research and development, but like MD mentioned, we need to separate. For some reason, I'm not quite sure why this country, as well as the other huge, developed countries in the world, haven't separated themselves from the oil companies. Why is the oil companies still in control? If you were to look at most of the items that we use, and you touched on this, Venkat, is that everything has some kind of oil, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for here? Some kind of association to oil, whether it be pharmaceuticals, whether it be the food, whether it be the items that we use on an everyday basis. Everything has some kind of petroleum concentrated figure in it. That should terrify people. Why does an ointment have concentration of oil? Why does petroleum oil-based items still being used? These are carcinogens. These are things that we're using in our day-to-day lives that, again, it seems to me, MD, and it could have, there's a small amount of policymakers out there, or a large amount of policymakers that are making all these decisions. At the same time, we're led astray, or we're being idiots, to the wolf standing up to the sheep's going, hey, pick me, because if you let me, I won't eat y'all because I'm the wolf. What are we doing? Like, at this point, we need, people to be like, okay, well, let's just focus on why this is becoming a huge issue. But then, like MD mentioned, we're in a free market flow. Everything that goes into play into this country is either capitalism or free market, or there's a concentration of something that affects the environment somewhere or affects, the economy. Where do we draw the line? Because we kind of do need natural gas, but at the same time, are we going to freeze ourselves to death during winter when winter comes? Are we then going to bitch and complain about things when, oh my God, I'm freezing, where is the oil? Then we have to extract the oil from somewhere. Then we complain that it's coming from too much from the Middle East and not within our own borders. And then it sets off a whole conundrum going round and round in circles. I think what Venkat and what MD, what we all need to be looking at, this great Green Deal, whatever this nonsense was, because it got lost in the sauce for me. I didn't even know whether it was here or there. It seems so conflated and full of ambiguity that I got lost in the whole messaging of it. I think what they need to focus on is how does countries like Germany use alternatives to then not focus or utilize too much, or be so concentrated on using natural gas. Is there an alternative? Is there a way that we could use or do R&D and say, like, if you pump gas a certain way and you get rid of the remnants that doesn't necessarily be used anymore, can we then use that different ways? Like, can that be used and mixed somehow? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's certain that we need to be researching.
But Ricardo, sorry to interrupt you,
Go
but
ahead.
I just want to just interject this point too. My anger with this, and it is anger, is that there was no action being taken years, decades, and centuries ago. Nobody did anything. And you come up with a chemical, you come up with these things, and immediately you just do whatever the hell you want without any sort of regulation. And I just heard in my lifetime multiple Republican presidents talk about deregulation. I'm able to correlate the two and understand it quite well. So I just saw a deregulated, free capital, whatever the hell. They're able to do anything they goddamn well please, and now this is the current reality.
Well,
so and people should be pissed off.
They should
This is not having a cup of tea and just, well, let's deliberate. No, there's nothing to deliberate. Some people made the direct decision that is affecting millions of people, if not billions, on the whole planet.
True. But I want to add to that point, though. Deregulation never really worked that well. I mean, look at the airline industry. They deregulated the airline industry to the point where Pan Am was #1 for years. And then when it deregulated on account of other airlines complaining, it literally decimated them to the point where Pan Am literally went out of business. And it wasn't because, I'm sure Pan Am did a whole number of stuff that they could have, fixed along the way. But you literally destroyed one of the largest, well-known airline, of all times, on account of deregulation, and that you had to let other airlines. What has it done? It's created monopolies along the way. Like, we've seen mergers beyond galore, and it still hasn't fixed the airline industry. It's still going to the point where now people are literally dressing like they're going to the beach on the plane. Like, how does?
Yeah, but that was deregulation that did that.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. What has it done? But MD might digress because there's unions that come into play here. There's a
right, and they killed down the unions. Pay went down, safety went down, everything went down. Like these concepts are not hard though. Come on in, MD.
You also no. I'm saying I agree to some extent what you're saying, but you also have to understand that the society as a whole, if we're gonna generalize it, is dumb as hell. We've been fracking since the early stages of the middle of the 20th century.
Yes, we have since 19.
The information that we know now, we did not know then, Vancat. You got to take that in consideration. We didn't know how much.
All the more reason why we shouldn't have been doing it.
But
that's easy for you to say again, Vancat.
No,
that's easy for you to say when you don't live in a cold state. That's real easy.
But MD, we've progressed to the point where now the technology and art and research and development have caught on to the fact that we've moved so progressively far ahead that we shouldn't be relying too much on one particular instance of petroleum. Like, there should be alternatives available to the discretion of the American people by now.
I agree. The issue is, and I keep reiterating this, the issue is, where is that infrastructure going to come from? Vancat may argue that it should come directly from the federal government.
It should.
What I'm saying, I don't believe that. I just want to make that clear.
So
we have the internet because of the federal government. The internet is existing because they invented the internet. Then they just let it go for everybody else to utilize it. If it wasn't for the federal government, you don't have that. If it wasn't for the federal government, you don't have a lot of vaccines. If it wasn't for the federal government, you don't have the freeway. You don't have a lot of things in this country without the federal government.
These are things that are implemented that can be used as a pathway. I don't disagree with that. You can't use heating as a pathway to something else. I don't see how you can really do that. Now, again, I always say what I call it: government assisted capitalism. That's what it is. But at the same time, I do understand the importance of boosting an upstart industry. That's what this would be. The Green New Deal is just that. The Green
You're
New
right.
Deal is not something existent. What I'm saying is give the federal government should give the foundation in order for independent entities to come in and facilitate the structure of that industry. I'm not disagreeing with you on that point, Fat Cat. What I'm saying is until it's there, you can't deny somebody in Alaska heat for their house. You can't do that.
So we're gonna hold them hostage.
Well, yeah, that's a perfect word, Ricardo. It is hostage. I don't go for it because I think people were cold way before this decade and the last decade and the last century. So
I'm glad
somehow
you
they
said
were
that, Fat
dealing
Cat.
with it. Huh?
They were dealing with it. If we were still dealing with it in that way, we wouldn't have no damn trees. But what would be your excuse then?
But when they shut down most of those coal plants and whatnot in the rust belts and all of that, remember they were saying, oh, the pollutants, oh my God, the pollutants is so bad, all of this stuff. And everybody was like, oh yeah, it sounds mighty well sorted that we're going to go and get rid of coals. Everybody started being like, all right. Well, then once they got rid of these coal factories and all of that, it decimated the industry to the point where people didn't have jobs. So then they had to go find alternative jobs elsewhere, and all of this issue came about where they were like, okay, well now we have to go so and so. If I recall well, didn't they have, because Van Cat brought up this point, that during the 80s, if I don't forget, they had this whole issue where they found a hole in the ozone layer, and then they said they were going to get rid of all these whatchamacallit, with the when we spray all these air freshener things, what do you call them, CFCs and all of that. They were going to get rid of them. The industrial nation said, oh, we're going to sign something, and this hole is going to go from a minute, from a big old hole to a small hole. And then from ever since then until now, we still have this ozone layer issue where greenhouse effects have been, through the roof. And then we're looking at these countries now telling people, like other countries like Brazil, oh no, how dare you cut down the Amazon rainforest? It's the lungs of the earth. We need you to leave those trees alone. Whereas Brazil is going, what the hell are y'all talking about? Y'all cut down all y'all trees. So now when it's an issue for y'all, now we can't cut down our trees. How does that help Brazil? So then it's like a cause and effect issue that I'm noticing, that it's like it's an unwavering tug of war nonsense, in a sense, if that makes sense. That we're literally talking about the same talking points, but then we're progressing, but we're still regressing at the same time, because you're telling one country, hey, don't cut down your trees because you're the lungs of the earth. If you cut down the trees, then earth is doomed. That we don't know what's going to happen. Meanwhile, the industrialized world have cut down all their trees. North America, we used to have a large plethora of trees everywhere. We barely have that much anymore because it become so urbanized that there's nothing to really see in terms of trees.
Ask California about how they feel about that with all the smog in their air. The only time it cleared up was in 2020 when there was nobody moving around. They actually had clear air for the first time in like forever.
Right, you're right.
People are trash, man. People are straight scumbuckets. The thing on that video that is ridiculous to me is that if I set a lighter to my water pipe, it's going to start blowing up in fire. So that means that's the same pipe you bathing with. That's the same pipe you using a Brita filter and drinking water with.
Well, ladies and gentlemen,
I got a cut on my knee and I'm going, let me wash it out with that water?
Lest we remind you of Flint, Michigan. Lest we remind
That's
you
what I'm saying.
Let's remind you of all these things that we were reminded of, but yet it's still happening. So who's going to fix it though? How do we fix it?
So now we're gonna make Flint, Michigan everywhere in the United States.
The poster child for everything that's going to be bad.
Because somebody in Alaska need their ass heated. That's a hell of a trade-off, by the way. And we got all these people, Sid Vicious. Yeah, you can say wow, MD. I mean, I'm just saying, you got people getting cancer at ridiculous rates, more so now than ever. And it's multiple reasons, but you can't tell me this isn't one of them.
But Venkat, we live in a capitalistic country. Remember, I could sue these companies and become a multimillionaire at the end of the day. So
That hasn't happened. The little man never wins those because they got so much lawyers up their ass. There's no way the little man is going to be able. Again, corporations are controlling everybody, how I live, how I sleep, how I eat. Oh my God.
they're fullest for that. But
I'm telling you right now, bending that knee to the corporate entity, that ain't gonna work for me, brother.
did you not watch Aaron Brockovich? How dare you say that we can't?
I didn't watch it.
There's godforsaken companies. One woman lawyer did all of that. She went into the detailment of the town and she literally fought and helped those cancer survivors win all that money in settlement. And now some of them have died, sadly. But some of them are multimillionaires now. How dare you say that when we live in a capitalistic country, Venkat? We live for free money and free movement of funds and market shares here. We can't be thinking like that. It's all about the money. Money rules this country, Venkat.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. You end up self-destructing and you get nowhere with it. But, seriously speaking, this is a huge ass issue. I agree with what MD is saying as far as why Kamala Harris in 2019, 2020 was talking one way. She's trying to get the liberal progressive vote. So she's going to, because that matters to a progressive, obviously. But then she has to change once she become a part of the Biden administration, because contrary to Fox News belief, Joe Biden is not a progressive. This is not something you got to go searching for. He is not a progressive.
Not even in the slightest.
Not even in the slightest. So when she is in that administration, she has to conform to what Biden's administration is like. So this all makes sense. This is politics. So I agree with MD. You would be stupid not to. But we're going to continue on with the last half that we're going to look at the interview here. This is a great conversation. This is a needed conversation. A lot of dumbasses are going to be talking about other things, but we're here keying in on the real discussion of the day, because this continues. There is no day tomorrow. Everybody be dead. But it's crazy. The trade-offs are just crazy to me. I just wish there was a big boy in the room years ago to say no to certain things and push other alternatives. Let's go into the second part of the video here. And this will have some of Walz involved in this as well.
Another issue, big one, is immigration. As Vice President, you were tasked with addressing the root causes of migration in southern countries and
northern part of Central America.
The northern part of Central America that affects the southern border of the U.S. During the Biden-Harris administration, there were record numbers of illegal border crossings. Why did the Biden-Harris administration wait 3.5 years to implement sweeping asylum restrictions?
Well, first of all, the root causes work that I did as vice president, that I was asked to do by the president, has actually resulted in a number of benefits, including historic investments by American businesses in that region. The number of immigrants coming from that region has actually reduced since we began that work. But I will say this, that Joe Biden and I and our administration worked with members of the United States Congress on an immigration issue that is very significant to the American people and to our security, which is the border. And through bipartisan work, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, a bill was crafted, which we supported, which I support. And Donald Trump got word of this bill that would have contributed to securing our border, and because he believes that it would not have helped him politically, he told his folks in Congress, don't put it forward. He killed the bill. A border security bill that would have put 1,500 more agents on the border. And let me tell you something, the Border Patrol endorsed the bill. And I'm sure in large part because they knew they were working around the clock and 1,500 more agents would help them. That bill would have allowed us to increase seizures of fentanyl. Ask any community in America that has been devastated by fentanyl what passing that bill would have done to address their concern and a pain that they've experienced.
So you would push that legislation again. I just want to
Not
ask
only
about
push it, I will make sure that it comes to my desk and I would sign it.
just one other question about something that you said in 2019 when you first ran. There was a debate. You raised your hand when asked whether or not the border should be decriminalized.
Kamala Harris defending some of her shifting policy positions since she last ran for the White House in 2019. On immigration, she was pressed about a 2019 primary debate where she raised her hand when asked whether the border should be decriminalized.
Do you still believe that?
I believe there should be consequence. We have laws that have to be followed and enforced that address and deal with people who cross our border illegally, and there should be consequence. And let's be clear, in this race, I'm the only person who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations who traffic in guns, drugs, and human beings. I'm the only person in this race who actually served a border state as Attorney General to enforce our laws, and I would enforce our laws as president going forward. I recognize the problem.
Generally speaking, how should voters look at some of the changes that you've made, that you've explained some of here in your policy? Is it because you have more experience now and you've learned more about the information? Is it because you were running for president in a Democratic primary? And should they feel comfortable and confident that what you're saying now is going to be your policy moving forward?
Dana, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. You mentioned the Green New Deal. I have always believed, and I have worked on it, that the climate crisis is real, that it is an urgent matter to which we should apply metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time. We did that with the Inflation Reduction Act. We have set goals for the United States of America and by extension the globe around when we should meet certain standards for reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, as an example. That value has not changed. My value around what we need to do to secure our border, that value has not changed. I spent 2 terms as the Attorney General of California prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, violations of American laws regarding the illegal passage of guns, drugs, and human beings across our border. My values have not changed. So to find a common place of understanding of where we can actually solve problems.
On that note, you had a lot of Republican speakers at the convention. Will you appoint a Republican to your cabinet?
Yes, I would.
Anyone in mind?
Yes, I would. No one in particular in mind. We got 68 days to go with this election, so I'm not putting the cart before the horse, but I would. I think it's really important. I have spent my career inviting diversity of opinion. I think it's important to have people at the table when some of the most important decisions are being made that have different views, different experiences. And I think it would be to the benefit of the American public to have a member of my cabinet who was a Republican.
I want to ask you about your opponent, Donald Trump.
Okay.
I was a little bit surprised. People might be surprised to hear that you have never interacted with him, met him face to face. That's going to change soon. But what I want to ask you about is what he said last month. He suggested that you happened to turn black recently for political purposes.
I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black.
Questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah.
Any
same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Let's talk about some foreign policy issues that would be on your plate if you become commander-in-chief. President Biden has tried unsuccessfully to end the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. He's been doing it for months and months, along with you. Would you do anything differently? For example, would you withhold some U.S. weapons shipments to Israel? That's what a lot of people on the progressive left want you to do.
Let me be very clear. I'm unequivocal and unwavering in my commitment to Israel's defense and its ability to defend itself. And that's not going to change. Far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. And we have got to get a deal done. We were in Doha. We have to get a deal done. This war must end.
In the meantime,
and we must get a deal that is about getting the hostages out. I've met with the families of the American hostages. Let's get the hostages out. Let's get the ceasefire done.
But no change in policy in terms of arms and so forth.
No, we have to get a deal done. Dana, we have to get a deal done.
Governor Walz, the country is just starting to get to know you. I want to ask you a question about how you've described your service in the National Guard. You said that you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about our children being shot in schools and around guns. So I think people know me. They know who I am. They know where my heart is. And again, my record has been out there for over 40 years to speak for itself.
And the idea that you said that you were in war, did you misspeak as the campaign has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And my wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar is not always correct. But again, if it's not this, it's an attack on my children for showing love for me, or it's an attack on my dog. I'm not going to do that. And the one thing I'll never do is I'll never demean another member's service in any way. I never have, and I never will.
I just, one other question, because again, this is all new. This was not, however many days ago, this was not on either of your bingo cards, especially yours. You had to clarify that you had said that you and your wife used IVF, but it turned out you used a different kind of fertility in order to have children. And then when you ran for Congress in 2006, your campaign repeatedly made false statements about a 1995 arrest for drunk and reckless driving. What do you say to voters who aren't sure whether they can take you at your word?
Well, I've been very public. I think they can see my students come out, former folks I've served with, and they vouch for me. I certainly own my mistakes when I make them. The one thing I'll tell you is I wished in this country wouldn't have to do this. I spoke about our infertility issues because it's hell, and families know this. And I spoke about the treatments that were available to us that had those beautiful children there. That's quite a contrast in folks that are trying to take those rights away from us.
All right, there it is. One of the things that jump out at me is when she was asked, Kamala Harris was asked, would she bring in a Republican into her administration? Ricardo, what do you think about that response and anything else on the second half there that we saw?
I wasn't particularly that she is very bipartisan in terms of the way of thinking in getting a Republican being in her cabinet. We've seen it before. We've seen, Republicans serve in Democratic, cabinets before. So this is nothing new. I think a lot of people were taken back by it, but I wasn't that surprised. I mean, if she's going to be someone of a policymaker and not be entangled in this rhetoric of divisiveness, she's going to have to, extend the olive branch towards the Republican side. Now, will that kind of, fester or alleviate some of the, the vitriol that we've been seeing going around and the negativity that we've seen, that has come about from years past? I don't know, but it goes to show that she's willing to at least make some attempts and continue that bipartisan, extension of an olive branch. Now, I know there's a couple of people out there that will say, hey, screw that. Why are we, not just, let's just go full throttle and screw the damn Republicans and not be inclusionary with our policies and whatnot. Lest we forget, she still has to appease to a certain demographic of the country. And most people are still very conservatives in thinking. Some people are, independent voters. Some people are in the middle. So she has to speak to the progressives as well as people who are on the conservative side as well as the Democratic side. So she has to appease from multiple sections, and I approve of that message, and I applaud her for that. Other parts of the video that grabs my attention is the fact that it does show that she does have a flip-flopping stature when it comes to certain things that she said in the past. And I knew this was going to come up in the interview. This is where you always heard me in previous weeks saying she's going to have to jump ahead of this in terms of this coming out, because with Gabby training Trump in his debates, we know that they're going to hit her left, right, and center, from the back, from the front, from the side. She's going to have to be prepared because she gets stomped easily. What I do notice in her interviews so far is that she thinks meticulously before she talks, which might aid her in some aspects, but in some aspects we know how Trump is. He's going to be all over the place, and he will start in one talking point and then goes into another and just rambles and babbles into nonsensical, craptacular gibberish. So she's going to have to be able to command back certain portions of not interviews, but the debates when it comes time to it. I don't know if that I'm talking stance with Pence will work this time with Trump, but we'll see. They have to mute the mic, or they have to do certain things. So that stood out to me. I think the Israel thing, again with the whole Palestine and Israel war, that's not going to change. In fact, I think that's going to ramp up a little bit more. She's going to have to prepare herself because she's mostly progressive on that issue. There's a lot of people who are pro-Israeli. I used to be. I'm not anymore. I am more of a type of person that now sees through the propaganda machine of nonsense that we've been seeing. Because you can't be killing people and then it's half-sided where you're saying, oh, yes, whoa, we're going for Israel, but then you're killing innocent kids and people at the expense of the other. And then it's like, oh, but don't worry about that. Israel is the main issue. Like, no, we can't do that anymore. That doesn't work. So she's going to have to toe the line very carefully in terms of, how she explains her pivotal points when it comes to conflicts in the Middle East. That will always be a problem. That region will never change. It's just one of those things. But what she does have at her expense is the fact that Walz did serve. He should have some military backing or background. She will have military people in her corner when it comes time or down to it. So she needs to jump on certain talking points in terms of exacerbating that, and that she has, the experience so far being VP. She's been around Biden and she's seen it in action, as well as she's now going to continue the relay, or with the baton being passed to her. So there's certain things in the interview that I noticed that I still see the familiar, VP from past, but we're not looking at the VP lens. We're looking at from the presidential. So she's now have to get out of that focus point of, when I used to, it's not when I used to. Now it's going to be when the time comes down to it. And if you have to press that buzzer, which, is, if you don't know what the buzzer is that we have one of the most deadliest arsenals in our grasp. So if it comes down to where we have to press that button and release it, at the expense of war, can she do it? Will she be able to do it? Is she articulated to do it? Is there going to be emotions involved? That's where people are more concerned about. And I think she's going to have to bring out that side of, this is what I'm able or capable of doing. And don't worry about it. I can do it when the time comes down to it, because I am already second in command. So, that's the takeaways from the interview that I've got. There's a plethora of them, but that was one of the sticking points that I wanted to focus on.
All right, thanks, Ricardo. MD, what's your takeaway here? I mentioned to Ricardo about the Republican that Kamala Harris is open in bringing into her administration, and anything else that was said there that that you may have an idea on?
Well, first and foremost, her sidestepping or swiping away the comment. Well, not necessarily the comment, but the question Dana Bash mentioned about Trump questioning her blackness. I think it was smart for her to do that. No reason to put fuel on the fire, and it's definitely a fire. I think both of y'all can attest to that, like right now. So in the aspect of fueling the conversation that's spun out of control, in my opinion, as far as her identity and hell, overall black identity in this country as a whole. I think it was smart of her to just say, "Hey, look, next question. I ain't even going that route." And I think because if she would have said something, either for or against it, this thing would be times 10 right now. Because the MAGA maniacs and the disillusioned Negroes, they would jump all over it. So I think that was smart to do that. I can see.
Did you copyright that? The disillusioned Negroes?
I should.
Yeah.
I should. I definitely should. I might have to contact the underwriters right now. But as far as having a Republican in her administration, that's like nothing revolutionary. I don't know what Republican I would see. A lot of people talk about Liz Cheney, Adam Kissinger. You got to remember, Adam Kissinger in like 2012 was a Tea Party Republican. So I mean, you got to like balance out what's what in terms of what you're trying to do. I'm not saying he couldn't do it, but I'm saying it's got to be in an ideal position. Liz Cheney, I mean, these people. Sometimes we revere these never Trump Republicans for reasons that we're really not trying to revere them for. Adam Kissinger and Liz Cheney are not in no way, shape, or form in the liberal spectrum at all about anything. Can they suit a certain position? Yeah, they could. But in terms of ideology, they not with the Democrats. So again, I think a lot of people are disillusioned by that. But again, I can see a person like Adam Kissinger as a transportation secretary. I think a lot of the people that's in the Biden administration are going to keep their job. Let me say that first and foremost. If she ends up winning, I don't think the administration going to change much, like at all. So there's that. But the last thing I'll say, Tim Walz. He owned up to what he said. He misspoke when he talked about the assault weapons and all that and weapons of war. He misspoke. I'm not gonna hold that against him. Neither should MAGA maniacs, because Trump do it all the time. If that's what quote unquote, that's what he do all the time. The DUI stuff, like who gives a damn? Like he got drunk and he tried to get to the house or whatever. Like it happens. We gotta stop putting a lot of these I think that's a lot of the issue that we have. We put a lot of these politicians on the pedestal and hold them up to a standard as if they above human.
Only the Democrats. There's no standards for the Republicans, which is so off balance.
Yeah, I mean, you drink and drive, you get caught in a hotel with another man. Who gives a damn at the end of the day? What they got to do with me and the policies that you're trying to implement? So I think that's an issue. That's an issue that I think we got to overcome as a people when it comes to how we view what we want as representation. I don't want moral representation in government. I don't care about your moral. You can do whatever you want to do, as long as it's not infringing on nobody else's right, and as long as it adheres to the policies that you're trying to create. Other than that, sleep who you want to sleep with, drink whatever you want to drink. I don't care.
Are you talking freedom, MD?
I'm talking freedom. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Are you talking about Bubba?
Hey, it is what it is.
Dog. But most people are not going to think like that, MD. They're going to think about, like, if MD is running, why is MD doing that? Why is MD sleeping with her? Isn't she a prostitute? Wasn't she the one that was doing, like, that's how fickle-minded people are.
Hey,
So,
Tim Walz said it best. Mind your own damn business.
and he's absolutely right on that point.
All right, so I do want to go to the next video, but this next video is a special video because this video was a video brought to my attention by Ricardo. So this video, we'll take a look at it real quick, and then we'll have our thoughts.
Judge Charles Ralph Simpson III, the judge that just dismissed the federal charges against the officers in the killing of Breonna Taylor, was appointed by Ronald Reagan in 1986. Republicans understand something that a lot of Democrats do not understand. When you vote for the president, you are also voting for the judiciary. The judiciary, civics 099, as my girl Erica Savage would say, is a co-equal branch of the government. You have the judiciary, the executive, and the congressional branches, all separate and co-equal. Presidents appoint lifetime appointees. You have a 79-year-old who is hanging on by a thread, hoping and praying that Donald Trump will win in November so that they can put another 40-year-old white man in place to serve for the next generation. Fucking up shit in the courts for us. Denying our humanity, taking away our ability to succeed, denying our autonomy. Republicans vote for the judiciary as well. And Democrats, I don't know what the hell we be doing. Now, I'm optimistic after the DNC that people got the message, but understand that it's all connected. If you let 200 more Trump McConnell judges, we're going to be seeing a whole lot of what this Reagan judge has done for the next 40 years.
Okay, there it is. So that video was from Ricardo. We're speaking about Kamala Harris' new administration, should she win in November. But this video brought up a great point about how important it is, not just for the president, but for what the president is able to do after they're in. Ricardo, your thoughts there?
So it was, I wanted to bring that up because I keep hearing a lot of people, a lot of talking points online, a lot of, full of misinformation and all this crap that I've been hearing. And it brought me back to the point of why people don't understand, or a lot of MAGA maniacs don't understand, or probably forgot the branches of government and how it brings into the fall of the Constitution. We have I think it's three partitions, but three divisions of all of this combined. There's the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. We tend to focus a lot on the executive, which, all in all, yes, it's a popularity race. It's one of those things where we always, tend to focus on, where it's the president, vice president, and the cabinet. But what we tend to forget as well is the whole aspect of the legislative and the judicial portion of it. Who is making the laws? Who approves the presidential appointments? Who controls the money? Who can declare war in this country? That's legislative. I'm doing a civics lesson here because I clearly had to do it because a lot of people tend to forget. Whereas the executive portion enforces the laws, vetoes the laws, pardons the people, appoints the federal judges, declares the states of emergency, and is elected every 4 years. That's the executive people. The judicial portion, which is the Supreme Court or SCOTUS, or the other federal courts, interprets the laws, decides if the laws are unconstitutional. Supreme Court is like the Supreme Court justices are appointed by the presidents. If most of y'all didn't know, you should know that by now. Can overturn rulings by other judges and makes arrangements for prisoners. There are 9 justices that could increase to 10. These all come into play as for why we're voting. When you hear her say there are old geezers, old farts that are literally legislating our policies, that are literally waiting for this man to come in to then have their way and get away with murder again, this is where it's concerning. This is where your vote comes in. I don't want to hear people going, oh, but I didn't know. You need to educate yourself on the civics of how this country is run. If I had, as a naturalized citizen, had to do it, I don't understand how people who are born here don't know. It is imperative that you understand how this whole process works. When you vote for a president, that particular person then appoints these judiciaries or the judicial people that are going to be going on the Supreme Court. They also vote in or vote out people that are making all these policies and changes. We cannot go through another McConnell again. I just can't live through that again. That is just absurdity beyond words. This man looked like he had 4 strokes on TV and still said, oh, with his mouth mumbling, I'm fine. That is not okay. We need people that are literally able to do the job. And I'm not an ageist by any means, but I'm just saying, when you're past your prime and you need to get out, please step aside and let people do their jobs. And we won't be able to do that unless people know how the process works and they vote in the accordance of how this whole thing plays. But of course, I digress. Again, as Venkat said earlier in the show, society is very stupid. We go for the stupid rhetorics, we go for the dog whistling, and we go for the nonsense where we know better. We should have known all of this in civics class, but I digress. I just wanted to bring that up in terms of why I brought that point of the video. And she is not wrong in what she's saying. When it comes to voting, the Democrats and all those people are out there who are saying all this with the megamaniacs and the Democrats and all that, vote. But know why you're voting and know how the whole process works. There's 3 branches. There's legislative, executive, and judicial. They all come into play with what? When you vote in November.
All right, thanks, Ricardo. MD, what's your thoughts there on that video about the importance of picking the judges for the courts?
I mean, yeah, Reese Colbert was 100% correct. I don't like Reese Colbert, by the way. I just want to throw
You
that in
never
there.
like any of these people.
Yeah, Reese Colbert is terrible. Hey, look, just a plug in. Speaking of Reese Colbert, if you haven't seen the C-SPAN interview that she did, man, go watch. Again, this is going back to the whole blackity black and men women scenario. I forget the name of the show. It's the one that you can call in as a Republican, a Democrat, or independent. You know what I'm talking about, Venkat?
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's got three different telephone numbers, like for Democrat,
Right.
Republican.
Right.
Yeah.
Which you
Reese
can't trust
Colbert.
that anyway.
Yeah, you can. Reese Colbert was on that Sunday. Man, go see that interview. Just go look up C-SPAN, Reese Colbert. That was wild. I just leave that at that. But in any event, she's absolutely correct. Also taking into consideration the Congress when we talking about appointing judges, when it comes to Senate confirmation. Senate confirmation is just as important as the pick itself. Just to put that, in there. These are the things that we look at in a totality when we deal with selecting a president. A lot of times we look, and again, this goes back to the point I made earlier. We look at the presidential campaign as almost like a popularity contest. Essentially, that's what it is. Not understanding the implications behind it, and that's troubling as a nation. That's real troubling. You were about to say something, Ricardo?
No, I was just about to say, yes, it is a popularity race. As much as we hate to say it, it is. It's all about the popularity of the race. But what we tend to be forgetting is the significance of, like, everybody forgets, oh, we're picking the president, but don't realize the implications of what that entails when you pick that particular person. What ensues after that is when people go, oh, but wait a minute, I didn't know. You should have been known, because it's all on your ballot. It's all there. Literally, that's what your job is to do, is to literally not just focus on one particular thing, but the overall implications of what you're voting for. That's the whole point of what, I mean, you might disagree with her overall stance on things, but she ain't wrong when what she's saying. When we pick these people, they're going to be in place for years to come. And that's the issue, is that most of these people have been sitting there for years and not move until the next election comes into play. And then they're sitting there again until some of them die on the damn freaking positions they have. which shouldn't be the case. We should be doing policy changes where we're saying, hey, old fart, you need to be up and about, you need to get out now. Like you're not supposed to be dying on the job. Your job is to get in and do what you need.
Dying on the job.
Job. That's like troubling. As a nation, we should be doing much more better than what we're doing. This is crazy. This is nuts.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, this current slate of Supreme Court justices, this is probably the most important slate of justices. Hell, I'll even go back to since Brown v. Board. Just look at the monumental decisions that's come down in the past couple of years. I mean, you know, Roe v. Wade is one, but I'm talking about like Chevron doctrine, the upholding from the second iteration of Citizens United. This is generation defining stuff that is going on right now in 2024, and you know it's only going to expand come 2025 and beyond. So I agree with her sentiments 100%. But unfortunately, a lot of people just don't look at elections that way. They should, but they don't.
Scary. Real scary. All right. So besides Ricardo's video, I was sent by Mr. Straight Talk that Jeremy wanted us to take a look at a video. So I'm gonna play that video now. And hold on, let me just get it queued up here because I'm gonna share this one. Let's see. There it is. Okay. All right. So here's the video. It's about Kamala Harris. It's some sort of a gaffe. This video was from about a year ago. So let's take a look.
Help us to achieve these goals, and it will do so much more. Because think also about the impact on not only the local economy, not only on an investment in the entrepreneurs and innovators from and in the community, think about the impact on something like public health. When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water. Think of the impact on family budgets. When we help folks upgrade their heating and cooling systems, we lower the cost of electricity, which means lower energy bills for working parents, so they have more money for groceries and home repairs and school supplies.
The future of your business.
Okay, so what did anybody get out of that video? Anybody have any thoughts about that video?
Go ahead, Ricardo.
So it sounded like it again, you know, there's many gaps that are going to be coming, many gaps that have been said before. There's many gaps that we're going to see endlessly until the end of the election. I think she was saying something about the population and whatnot. I don't think she meant that figuratively speaking. I think it's a gaffe. Now, how she managed to say it and didn't correct herself is beyond me. But I wouldn't take that as like the deep, like, oh my God, a conspiracy theory, like, oh my God, I told you, trying to get the population reduced. And I mean, at some point in time, the world has what, 6 billion? We're going into 7 billion people. There has to be some accountability somewhere where we're going to tell people like, hey, stop having sex and doing unprotected sex and doing all that. Either you increase the population somewhere or decrease it somewhere. So I'm just saying that out of thin air. That's just me being me. But to use that as a conspiracy theory thing, again, it's lost in the sauce for me. It doesn't really weigh or sway me. Many people have said far worse than what she said, if we're gonna go there. So this doesn't trouble me, it doesn't concern me, it doesn't go, oh my God, I gotta be like, we're terrified. It doesn't, I mean, I've seen and heard worse. If you want to, see something terrifying, go read the Project 2025 playbook that they have in play here. That's terrifying to me. But this of her saying they have to reduce the population, nah, that doesn't do it for me. But maybe it might scare some other people like MD.
What do you think, MD?
Nah, it don't scare me. Hell, some people ought not be born. You might be right, but I mean, yeah, I agree with you though, Ricardo. Yeah, it was just a twisting of the words. I'm not putting no stake into that at all. Like that's dare I say for and Jeremy Dunbar, that's my guy. That's a technician. But dare I say it's weird maybe to pick an obvious situation where, again, like Ricardo said, maybe it was a gaffe or wordplay being misused. Obviously, she didn't mean anything about decreasing the population, purposely. Because if that's the case, she would be running on it, and she's not. So yeah, I'm not putting no stake into that. Yeah. Next question, as Kamala would say.
I mean, it's funny we're in a time right now where a lot of Republicans, not just Trump, can say stuff, it'd be outrageous. They double down on it, and then next week it's forgotten. And this is a thing from over a year ago where it was a clear she misspoke on that. She didn't, it was so much of a, non-issue. She didn't even realize she did it. But the channel that posted it, they put in the captions, viral gaffe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but viral means like widespread. First time I've seen this video. First time I know of this situation. And immediately when I looked at it, you could see the words population and oh God, I don't forgot what the hell it was now. Pollution. Those words just got mixed up.
But wait a minute, Van. So you said it said viral gaffe.
Yeah.
Gaffe literally means unintentional, like didn't mean to say it. So which one is it?
Yeah, it's an oxymoron. What the hell? Yeah, it just doesn't make sense at all. But yeah, there's really, as Trevor would say, there's nothing to see here. But I wanted to play it just to get everybody's perspective on it. But again, like Trump will say something, it'll be the wild cuckoo bananas thing that you could possibly say, and he'll double down on it. So this is not something she doubled down on. I don't even think she even knows that this is even a thing, because I know I didn't. So yeah, it was just a misunderstanding and not a real issue. So I want to go back to the DNC. I want to look at, I showed a little bit of it before when we did that show on the DNC, but I want to really key in on this because I'm kind of disappointed that media in general, whether you be left-wing media, right-wing media, they didn't cover this. They didn't talk about this. They didn't do nothing. They just glossed over it and went to the fluffy stuff. And it's funny how actual policies, actual movement in the right direction or whatever can be ignored, and we just go for the ice cream. We're talking Bill Clinton here, and Bill Clinton said a lot of things, and some of it was, gain traction, but not as much traction as the Obamas and other speakers at the DNC. But there's one thing he said specifically that caught my ear and eyes. And again, I don't know why this hadn't been mentioned. I didn't see it on MSNBC that much. I didn't at all, really. I didn't see it on nobody's radar. CNN didn't talk about it that much. But it's a stat that he threw up, and we just went over that like it was not a big deal. Remember, we are in an election season. where the guy that bankrupted himself 6 times, the guy that got into office with people knowing that fact, got into office, had a net negative in jobs when he got out of office, less jobs than when he came in with. And when they do the poll today, they say he is the most trusted person with the economy. With that being said, let's take a look at this.
You're going to have a hard time believing this, but so help me, I triple checked it. Since the end of the Cold War in 1989, America has created about 51 million new jobs. I swear I checked this 3 times. Even I couldn't believe it. What's the score? Democrats 50, Republicans 1. Since the end of the Cold War in 1989, America has created about 51 million new jobs. What's the score? Democrats 50, Republicans 1.
That's actually true. Since 1989, there have been 6 presidents, 3 from each party. And under Clinton, Obama, and Biden, 50 million more people were working than before. Under George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, and Trump, the total increase in people working was in fact only 1 million. You might say, oh, well, there was a recession under Bush and COVID under Trump, and you'd be right about those 2 facts. But even if we extend the data back to the end of World War II, the difference is clear. Each party has had 7 presidents since that time. And Democrats added 88 million jobs while Republicans only added 32 million. And if we zoom in to look at the data of just Trump versus Biden's presidency, eliminating COVID effects for Trump and Biden's boost in the beginning because more people were going back to work following the pandemic, the difference is still there. In 2018 and 2019 under Trump, 4.3 million jobs were added. But in 2022 and 2023 under Biden, 7.5 million jobs were added.
All right. So again, this is an election season. There is an actual election going on in November. We have people polling right now stating that Agent Orange, the guy that had a net negative in job creation, is going to come in like Superman and take the American population up like Lois Lane and save us somehow, some way. This guy, 6 bankruptcies, 34 felony counts, 2 times impeached, is going to somehow make jobs appear. So with that being said, MD, what do you think?
Yeah. I remember when Clinton said it, and looking back, retrospectively, yeah, I can see his point. Now again, like, Republican presidential administration since Reagan, failed on the behest of something happening. With Reagan, I mean, hell, even going back to, like, you look at 81 and what happened then, you really didn't really have too much of growth in the economy because, hell, if you ask a lot of these boomers and some of these late Gen Xers, they'll say they were sitting high on the hog anyway. But I mean, you can go back, you look at Bush and see what happened. And then Clinton comes in. What do you get with Clinton? You got the tech boom. You got growth there. Clinton leave, then you get Bush. We get the housing crisis. You know what I mean? Obama got to fix that indirectly, having job growth as a result with a boost in the economy. Of course, Trump come in, we get COVID. You get a negative turnover in job growth. Who comes in? Biden comes in, fixes what happened with COVID. He gets the numbers there. So yeah, I mean, in retrospect, yeah, it adds up. Like I said,
every time a Democrat gets in office, they have to fix something. A Democrat has never gotten in in the modern era has never came in to a running on all cylinders economy and been good. They've always had to fix something and then answer for the mess that was there before they got there. And that's why
to
in
certain aspect,
2012, and in 2012, when Obama was running, he was running on the idea that, oh, why isn't this being fixed fast enough? That's the actual criticism. They made the second worst economy situation since the Great Depression. And the negative on Obama was, why isn't this getting fixed quickly enough? And once it did get running, the Orange Eagle came in and took full credit for stuff he never passed anything to predicate any kind of economic growth. He just sat in the chair and said, look, I'm making jobs. I don't know what is that to talk. I mean, it's like you're a giant fighting against a little midget, and we believe that somehow the midget has a fighting chance. It's 50-1. It's not 20-20 or 30-40. It's nothing close like that. It's 50-1. Amazing.
Right. Yeah,
It's
it's
amazing.
wild. It's wild if you look at it. It's definitely wild.
Lord Jesus.
But like I said, a lot of that has to do, especially when it comes to job growth. A lot of that has to do with being beholden to these companies. That's the issue with the Republican Party. Until they can fix that, it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same.
Yeah. As a Democrat, if you're running, all you have to do is just show statistics in a realistic way. Don't just blurt it out. You got to show it. People got to see it. Because it's obvious that we're not keeping score as a country. The people are just not paying attention. But this is ridiculous, man. The two parties are not the same. It's not even mildly close. I hear people lump it into, it's the lesser of two evils. No. It's not even the same. There's one party that's doing things ridiculously bad, and there's another one that's half-assing it, the Democrats. And the way to keep them in line is if the Republican Party was stronger, that would get the Democrats to up their game. And that's the problem with having a lackluster Republican Party, is that we get mediocrity. So if they are not trying to do things to help improve this situation, why are you voting for them? Why are you supporting them in any way? If Kamala Harris was to defeat Donald Trump the way that Ronald Reagan defeated Jimmy Carter, where I think Jimmy Carter got like 3 states. All the rest of the states went to Ronald Reagan. It was ridiculous. And then all the Democrats just fell in line and they just worked with the Republicans. They didn't do any obstruction or nothing of that nature. That would then force the other side to up their game. But because Republicans don't hold their politicians accountable like the Democrats do, you can get frustrated all you want. The Democrats are not on the same page. The Democrats are not on this, all this nonsense, but they're holding them accountable. They ship people out immediately when you're a problem. Even Joe Biden got it. That freaking comedian on SNL who was a great Congress, he was in Congress. Al Franken for touching the boobs of the female military lady while she was sleeping. When that got out there, they got rid of his ass. The Democrats and the Republicans are not the same. Oh. Okay, Ricardo, what's your opinion on that?
I mean, you're preaching to the choir here. And we all know and it's rhetoric that seems to galvanize that particular, the right. They will forever, get entwined with nonsensical things that don't matter at all. Lest we forget when the whole Monica Lewinsky thing broke, and how it was a huge thing. Like, how dare Clinton do that in the Oval Office? Meanwhile, there was a Republican that was doing far worse. So it's a double standard thing that would never end. It's just, one of those things. But MD did bring up a good point. It seems to me that the Republican Party has, strong businessmen or corporate entities have a stronghold on the Republican Party, and also the NRA. So there's certain conflicting things that come about when it comes to things that were like, why it's common sense, it should be straightforward, but they're so entangled and so corrupted that all of them are, not just the Republicans. The Democrats is just as corrupted as the other side is, but they all seem to be in bed with one another, and it needs to change somehow. We somehow need to, and we could say and spew this point on and go on and about how the two shouldn't be entwined, just like religion and politics shouldn't mix. It's the same thing. It's like we're preaching to the choir here. We know better, but I doubt we're going to see that much change, because money, again, empowers this country. We're a capitalistic country. Money speaks, money talks. It's the name of the game. Now, when ethics come into play here, and morals and integrity comes into play, then you could say, you know what, take your money and shove it up your ass. Then that's different, because then better. Hey, I'm not going to be swayed away by you coming at me with 50,000 compared to $50 million to become a ruthless, disgusting person that's going to spew nonsensical crap. There's a difference. Some people can do it, some people can't, but money talks at the end of the day. You're going to think about a whole bunch of plethora of things that you go, oh, why can't I use that money with? But that's just the issue, is that they're all in bed with one another, and they just don't know how to stop sleeping with each other. It's like you need to separate yourselves and say, hey, maybe I shouldn't go in bed with that person because, it's a bad look. Would that end again? No. This is just the United States politics. It's just a disgusting display of arrogance, overzealous power plays, and ruthlessness that comes into a whole bunch of mixes. And this is why Agent Orange 45 always gets away with murder and now has immunity, according to the courts. It's just a whole bunch of things that just doesn't make sense. But here we are. I mean, what do we know? But we know better. So I wouldn't say we're poor, but we're the lesser than the ones that are at the top of the pyramid. So we have to continuously doing our rah rah roo from the bottom until we make enough noise for them to be like, oh my God, we so didn't do the correct thing. How dare we not know this was ethically wrong? Cough, cough. Clarence Thomas and the rest of y'all in the Supreme Court. Taking bribes and gifts. Oh, how did I get in this strip club? I was clearly supposed to be going to church today, and there's booty flapping in front of my face. How dare I stand in this space? And damn well you were in. So it's like never-ending plethora of foolishness that we know better, as like knowing us here at people that are in charge know better, but they will continuously do things and get away with things. It's just like when the police or cops pull them over and they're like, do you know who I am? Like they always pull that card. Do you know who I am? Sir, yeah, I know who you are. That doesn't excuse you from being a complete prick when I tell you to show me or present to me your license plate. Your license and registration. You're not, above the law. These are the things that we as a society need to be making these people accountable for. But we always do the politics and go, oh, but so-and-so did. It's like a never-ending spindle. So once somebody breaks it, then we can all go, okay, well, finally somebody did something. But until then, it's the same old, same old.
I just got one thing to say to all those low information voters out there.
I believe you, but my Tommy gun don't.
Johnny!
Great. Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. And a Happy New Year.
Thank you. All right. So now is as good of an opportunity to go into, as the MAGAs turns, the long, gut-wrenching saga and soap opera of the MAGA world and the famous turns of MAGAs. And this week, we're going to look back at a video I had pushed back for a few weeks now. So finally going to air it now. Let's go to As the MAGA Turns.
I know this is awkward for you, Allie, but it doesn't change the way I feel. Please come back to the yacht with me.
As the MAGA turns.
Turns to shit, okay? It's true. It's true. Look at what's happening.
Become increasingly rare to see Republicans who speak out against the former president and, of course, the Republican nominee. There have been a few over the years. I mean, we've seen retired Congressman Adam Kinzinger, a Republican, outspoken about the former president's dangers to democracy. He even sat, if you recall, on the January 6th committee. Former GOP Congresswoman Liz Cheney, another critic who also served on that same committee. There's also Jeff Duncan, the former Republican lieutenant governor of Georgia, who speaks out quite frequently about the former president. And one thing in common with those three, well, none are currently in office. So it's exceptionally rare are sitting Republicans who do speak out. And even more rare, sitting Republicans who speak out and then go on to endorse a Democrat. But tonight, we have that for you here. The Republican mayor of Mesa, Arizona, John Giles, with a piece out today endorsing Kamala Harris. And he's here with me now. Mayor Giles, welcome. You know, you're really perhaps putting yourself out there with this endorsement. I do wonder, what has compelled you to do so?
You know, it was with a lot of thought. You know, I'm certainly not anxious. I am a Republican, and I enjoy endorsing Republicans. So this was a very considered step to take. And I also, as a mayor, you know, I love to not get involved in partisan politics at all when I can avoid it. Mayors like to focus on solving problems and on city issues and on, you know, being in the middle of between the 20-yard lines on all the things that there are consensus on. So this was not something that I was excited to do or necessarily looking to do. But, you know, occasionally there are issues and questions that we're presented with in life that are just too compelling to be silent. And I knew that if that I you know, had to sleep at night, and that I couldn't do that well if I didn't speak out and express my disappointment in the Republican nominee.
Have there been some who have expressed disappointment in your decision to come forward and endorse Kamala Harris?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's to be expected. But what I didn't necessarily expect was the tremendous response that I got today from people in my party and in my community expressing support for the op-ed that I published.
Let's talk about the why. Why you are supporting Kamala Harris and rejecting Donald Trump, who is a Republican. What is the reason that you find her to be the preference and the preferred candidate over even Trump?
Well, I think that there's a minimum bar for elected officials in this country, and you know, having to do with character, having to do with commitment to the rule of law and the Constitution. And I don't feel like Mr. Trump gets over that low bar. And at the same time, I do think that the vice president is a good alternative. The contrast between the two of them is stark, and President Trump does not compare well. There are many issues that, again, being a Republican, I differ with the vice president on. But what to me is the compelling reason to support her is that I don't question that at the top of her agenda is what is in the best interest of the United States. I honestly can't say that I think that's the case with Mr. Trump.
Your words speak volumes, and I know you've written and talked about election denialism as perhaps one reason to reject him. And, you know, Trump made comments over the weekend saying Christians won't have to vote again if he gets back in the White House. Here he is, by the way, tonight trying to clean up those remarks. Mayor, listen.
And I think everybody understood it. I didn't know there was any.
Yeah, well, I mean, because it's the constant refrain. I mean, after they have done all the things that we've talked about tonight. Horrible. All of the things.
Russia, all the things.
And dump their guy of 52 years, just dump him to the side. So they do all that, and then they say, well, no, you can't vote for him because he's literally never going to leave office. They're actually still saying that.
Yeah. It's just unbelievable.
But you will leave office after 4 years.
By the way, and I did last time.
Do you think that he would leave office at the end of his term if he is elected, given your concerns about election denialism and his comments about voting today?
No, I don't. You know, as I was writing this op-ed that ran in the Arizona Republic this morning, I remember at one point I had a phrase in the op-ed where I said, if Donald Trump's elected, I fear this might be the last free and fair election of my lifetime. And I struck it out because I thought, you know what, that's a little hyperbolic. That's more than needs to be said. And then, you know, he makes this statement saying that once I'm elected and I'm enthroned, you know, we won't need elections any longer. So sometimes Donald Trump says the quiet part out loud, and we have to believe him. And I think this is one of those occasions that we got some real insight into what his priorities are.
Okay, there we go. Another MAGA turns. MD, what did you think of the video from the MAGA turns?
It's funny. It's almost like it's tit for tat, even down to the surrogates that are supporting these candidates. And like I said, I'm not disputing, the genuality of this guy supporting Harris. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is it's almost as if it's a foundational reasoning behind finding bipartisan support. Now you see all last week the whole big thing was the little town hall that Trump did with Tulsi Gabbard, and how Tulsi Gabbard is this revolutionary democratic minded person that's supporting Trump, and how she's helping Trump with debate prep and all this stuff. We have to get what the main motto is for a lot of these never Trump Republicans, and it's country over party. Not saying that it's some type of America first, and they're going off of values rather than a partisan way of thinking. No, it's not that. It's, do we stand for what the mantles of the foundation of how this country is ran, or do we stand on the run-of-the-mill flavor of the day Republican strategy? Because essentially that's all it is. I commend a lot of these Republicans, even though they may have views that are different from mine, or we may be similar in some aspect. At the end of the day, you understand that rules are to be strictly enforced in terms of how democracy, the process in and of itself, is ran, and how the government is ran in itself. So I commend a lot of these Republicans doing it. A person like Tulsi Gabbard, I don't know what to go off of. A person like RFK, using a commendable, I would say, thing like promoting a healthy America. But how you think you're gonna get that from Trump? I don't know. Do you know that? make America healthy again. What, like from Trump? Like, what are we talking about? So I think we use a lot of these positions as leverage at the end of that, because that's all it is. RFK don't give a damn about trying to make no America. He crazy as hell. All he want is a cabinet position. He couldn't get it from the Harris campaign, so he went over to Trump. Tulsi Gabbard got disdain for Kamala. I don't care what nobody say. I think Tulsi feels as though she got a one up, and she still talks about it to this day. She feels like she got a one up on Kamala during the 2020 primary.
Yeah.
Now she feeling some type of way that, okay, she quote unquote, she did this bad in the primary in 2020. Now all of a sudden she's the candidate. Oh, the hell with this. I'm gonna just screw down the Republican Party altogether. I'm going with Trump. That's all it is. So priorities got a big thing to do with this. I look at Democrats that are rocking with Trump right now with not having a priority when it comes to the values that they say they hold versus Republicans that are with Kamala Harris right now.
Right, because look at Jeff Flake. He lost his position, going against Trump. There were, so essentially you got to be real brave to come out. And you got this Republican who is an active sitting governor. A lot of these other Republicans, they've already been relieved. So it's interesting to see. Ricardo, what do you think here about as MAGA turns?
I mean, calling me surprised. I mean, you couldn't expect a more logical explanation, but Trump does all. Here I go. I said, Agent Orange 45 does all the dirty work for everybody to literally either explain or get down to the nitty gritty. It's kind of like really shocking in itself, though, just to hear, the rhetoric where literally have to go by, hey, he says the quiet part out loud, which he does. I think he doesn't know how to use his inside voice, Agent Orange 45, and that's usually the problem that I have with him. You either says something and then it's just way out of context, or you literally have to believe what he says. And I choose to believe what he says, because if he says it the first time, believe it. He walks like a duck, talks like a duck. It is a duck. So, it's one of those things where it doesn't surprise me that, people are saying, hey, they're going to choose Harris over him on account of what we know already. Yeah, MD, I do have to agree with you on a point there regarding Gabbard. Is it, what do you say? Is it Gabbard? Is her name? I can't remember her damn name now because it's been like how many years since she did the debate.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, I feel like she's always felt like she should have been in Kamala's place, and that she got screwed over royally, because I still to this very day can't wrap my head as to how she became a Maganite, or whatever the word is for them now. She helping him is even more crazy, but money goes where money flows. The same thing with RFK Jr. I mean, that in itself, is RFK Jr. even associated with the Kennedys? I don't even know. I could swear he is, but that's
They turned their back on him after he acted all stupid.
How are you a part of Kamala squad and then join MAGA Knights? That didn't even make sense. You're a part of American royalty, my dude. But yeah, I get where he literally switched sides on account of he knew he was going to get that cabinet position that he wants in Kamala's cabinet, because as we all know, he was trying to be like what's his name from like Manchin, and it wasn't going to work. Like, we all see that playbook of you literally like doing the 2 steps towards MAGA values, but then, oh, I'm going to stop short and say, oh no, I'm not a part of them. Dude, that doesn't work. So you can't flip-flop and then spit in our face and call it rain. It's not going to work for you. So he knew exactly where he would have gotten the support, and don't take it for granted that Trump doesn't know what he's doing either. But Trump is still going to grab anyone in his corner on account of he needs everybody that he could get in terms of grasping at straws, because he really wants the spot so bad. When anybody's desperate, they will be willing to sell their soul to the devil at this point. So, it doesn't surprise me, but it's just one of those things where we know the playbook, we know exactly what's coming, we know how it's going to turn out possibly. But we still at the same time, length and breadth, have to then stress, we expect people to know better. We expect people to do better, but anything can happen. You just never know. And a part of me, it's like watching the Super Bowl, even though you know who you expect to win is the favorite, you kind of still want that surprise of, oh my God, it came awfully close, but I could breathe a silent sigh of relief in the end. That's what it's coming down to. But, are we surprised that most Republicans are not on his side? Absolutely not. I mean, they know exactly what they got the first time, and they know exactly how it's turning out now. And him in his senile rage of, selective grandeur, or all these things that he keep coming up with, the greatest president of all time, and I'm all of this. Lest we forget the last federal strike that went down, and it was on his watch, as well as this damn friggin' Republican puppets that were in power. Most people literally, I can speak to this, like TSA agents didn't have funds to pay for food as well as utilities for, I think it was 1 to 2 weeks, and literally had to rely on other people to help them. Some commit suicide at that. So this is how fickle-minded people are tending to forget. Like, the last federal did all that they could because they didn't want to sign certain things in play and put federal workers at risk of losing almost everything in the grasp of being in a pandemic. But I digress. What do I know? Because I'm rehashing things that people need to remember and tend to forget here. So, doesn't color me surprised that people don't want him and won't choose him and will go towards Kamala. Yeah, I'm sure he's turning seething red at this point, knowing that, some people are still not talking about the Marshall effect. Why not me? Why not me? I'm Trump.
All right. So, this past week, you had Donald Trump once again desecrate the military. Donald Trump is forever just putting a foot in his own ass, when he talks about the military. He denied that he called them suckers and losers. And of course, recently we saw him give the kind of attitude that a person that would say suckers and losers about the military would say as well. So there's controversy here with Trump and the military, and him disrespecting grave sites of the military, fallen soldiers, for photo op. This is classic Donald Trump. Let's take a look at this, and we'll get our viewpoints from the panel.
Last week, Donald Trump tarnished the sacred ground of Arlington National Cemetery, filming and posting campaign images taken from those hallowed grounds in violation of both the cemetery's rules and federal law. Now, it's important that we stay shocked by this kind of behavior, so we don't allow Donald Trump to inoculate us against his many sins by simply committing more of them. Trump's campaign took this photo of him posing with a thumbs up in Section 60 of Arlington. Let me tell you a little bit about Section 60 of Arlington National Cemetery. It's a 14-acre section, mostly reserved for veterans of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, which means it's not just hallowed ground, it's also an active cemetery, visited often by the loved ones of America's recent war dead. The Atlantic's Mitchell Powell described it as both the liveliest and the most achingly sad part of Arlington, where young widows can be seen using clippers and scissors to groom the grass around their husbands' tombstones as lots of children run about. But last Monday, you'd have also seen Donald Trump there taking campaign photos amid the headstones of those war dead. The same man who called dead Marines suckers and losers. That, according to his former chief of staff, John Kelly, who lost his own son, Robert Michael Kelly, 1st Lieutenant, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marine Regiment, who was killed in action in Helmand Province, Afghanistan, on November 9th, 2010. He's buried in Section 60 of Arlington National Cemetery. Trump, who said John McCain, who was a prisoner of war in Vietnam for more than 5 years, was not a war hero because he got captured. Trump, the man who avoided the draft himself on account of bone spurs. So no, it's not a surprise that this man stomped over hallowed ground, that his campaign staff reportedly got into a verbal and physical altercation with an Arlington official, or that his campaign spokesperson later attacked the character of that Arlington official, who then declined to press charges because, according to a New York Times source, she fears retaliation. We must not look away from this behavior. We must not allow it to be normalized by the frequency with which it is repeated and exceeded. As Mitchell Powell writes in The Atlantic, quote, for Trump, defiling what is sacred in our civic culture borders on a pastime. Peacefully transferring power to the next president, treating political adversaries with at least rudimentary grace, honoring those soldiers wounded and disfigured in service of our country. Trump long ago walked roughshod over all of these norms. This was not a judgment call or a minor violation of obscure bureaucratic boilerplate. In the regulations governing visitors and behavior at Arlington National Cemetery, many paragraphs lay out what behavior is acceptable and what is not. These read not as suggestions, but as commandments. Memorial services are intended to honor the fallen, the regulations note, with a rough eloquence. Partisan activities are inappropriate in Arlington National Cemetery due to its role as a shrine to all the honored dead of the armed forces of the United States and out of respect for the men and women buried there and for their families, end quote.
And what has gotten me through that a lot is the camaraderie of the Marine Corps. I joined to serve my country. I joined to make a difference, and so did Derek. And so to hear that the one place that we all service members across the board respect and revere has been desecrated, not just by Donald Trump yet again, because this is the second time, almost 4 years to the day, that I spoke out about the first time Donald Trump did this. And now that he has a Marine corporal as his vice president, I'm asking for accountability. No, I take that back. I am demanding accountability from Corporal Vance on how this egregious trespassing on sacred ground how it could be worth your integrity to work for a man like that. It's just very un-Marine-like. So I demand answers from him and from the Marines that follow him.
This doesn't end. As you said, this is not the first time. This continues to happen, the disregard for our armed forces. John Kelly brought Donald Trump to his son's graveside, and he can be seen in a sea of cameras directly behind, adjacent to your husband's grave. Your husband is buried in Section 60.
Directly behind Lieutenant Kelly. Lieutenant Kelly was actually Derek's platoon commander. And when Lieutenant Kelly died, it really rocked Derek. He actually had been able to call me. And so when that picture came out, I was instantly infuriated. I reached out to my friends and I needed to talk to somebody about how inappropriate this was and how a president of the United States should know that this is inappropriate, let alone to infringe on the grieving process of the Kelly family, who I have the utmost respect for. And so this doesn't end for us. However, our stories help to shape our to-be-told history. Arlington National Cemetery is a visible reminder of the dead who made this country possible. It is also a reminder of the finite room that we have to store honorably the dead from our battles. And it shouldn't have to be explained that this is not an opportunity for a photo op. And so to the Gold Star widow family, to the Gold Star families out there, I respect your right to invite who you choose to your memory ceremonies. However, our service, and Section 60 specifically, is just so much bigger than any one person that was inappropriate to take pictures. And when you are still young or new to this widowhood of the military, it's important that you understand why we have the rules we have, which was what that staff member was trying to enforce. And in my eyes, protect my husband and his honor and his memory. And they were rough handled at best and assaulted at worst by the Trump campaign.
Okay, so there we go. We had an incident with staff members of the Donald Trump campaign getting into an altercation with the Arlington funeral area personnel. MD, what are your thoughts about this story here in general?
So first and foremost, let me say this, and I equate this similarly to the situation with the assassination attempt and the untimely death of the gentleman that died at the rally in Pennsylvania. When you take such a delicate and personal situation into account, and then allow, because these families are allowing this. We please put emphasis on it. And you allow a person like Trump to use your situation as a tool of propaganda is the most troubling thing to me. We have to understand that this particular family allowed Trump to do the stuff that he did at this cemetery, hallowed ground, Arlington National Cemetery. It's a public space in the sense that you have to respect the surroundings of your loved one, along with what you got going on. The fact that these people didn't take that into account is the most troubling to me. Just like the wife of the man who was killed at that rally in Pennsylvania. To use your situation, it was a Trump rally, yes, of course, but something tragic happened, and you allowed Trump to not only utilize it in a sense of not upholding the memory of your husband, but using it as a defense in his situation. Not only did you do that, but you didn't use that same logic with the actual president of the United States, President Biden, when he tried to call you and send his condolences. Campaign tactic. You would use as cannon fodder, basically. Same situation with this. You had no respect for the entirety of the fallen soldiers in that cemetery when you allowed Trump to do what he did. That's just a fact. It ain't about your wishes in hallowed ground such as Arlington. It ain't. It's about the respect and the admiration of all the fallen soldiers, and you didn't do that. And then Trump is obviously going to take advantage of it. That's what he do. And the lady gave pushback, and then got into basically a shoving match with some officials in the Trump campaign. What's the campaign manager of Trump? He a Asian guy, big fat Asian guy. What's his name?
I know who you mean. I know exactly.
Stephen Chung, I believe.
Yeah.
This fat bastard got the audacity to say, well, the family let us come, and it was no big deal, and she didn't have a right. Well, who are you? I can say that you probably didn't serve in the military, so you can't empathize from that aspect. So you have no choice but to go with the traditions held by the cemetery itself. But you chose not to do that. You chose to get a photo op with him smiling from ear to ear with a half broken thumbs up in front of a grave. Shame on the family. I mean, I just got to say that.
How do you do a thumbs up in front of a grave.
Hey
This-
man, hey, I don't know, bro. I don't know. Why are you taking a picture in front of the grave? Like who does that? I don't know. I don't know about y'all. Black American family, that's a no. You liable. Like let's say you at a repast or something, right? Or you at what do you call it when they put you down in the ground? I think it's called, right? I don't know. The funerals that I done been to, you try to snap a picture, get in the nigga pose where you're down in a prone position. Bro, you liable to get swung on. Because taking pictures of a grave is a no. At least in my family it was. I ain't gonna speak for everybody. So because it's disrespectful. So, like I said, that's just me nitpicking on like my cultural background. But I mean, I think it would be common sense not to take pictures of grave sites, especially with you in front of it. So I don't know, man. That again, weird situation, bro. Weird.
And he doesn't like people calling him weird, and then he continues to do things that are weird.
Yeah, I couldn't make heads or tails of that. And here's one more thing, and I'm done. How this suckers and losers, all the stuff that he said about the military. For the I'm talking to the people that's the hardcore military vets that stand on being a vet, and that they make sure that that they're a veteran. I'm talking to them people. What logic are you using to put your support behind a person like that? I ain't even talking about policy right now. I'm talking about your tried and true back the green military veteran. I'm talking to them people. How do you do that? I can't make heads or tails of it because I'm not a veteran. I don't know. But as a veteran, I will believe that your pride in being a veteran is a top priority for what you venerate. So I don't know, Van Cat. I can't, man. This is a hell of a year, bro.
Unbelievable. So, Ricardo, what are your thoughts here on this? Donald Trump and his utter hate and contempt for the military, the same military he is vying to control in November.
I'm not the least bit surprised by this. I think it's just very disingenuous on his part for all the things that he's said and done in regards to the military. Lest we forget, this is the same guy as well that held the Bible upside down. So we shouldn't be as at that. So, calling me surprised, it's his usual tactic. It's just him doing the thumbs up every single time that just gets overplayed and gets so annoying to me. Like it not everything requires a photo op. He could have easily went in very discreetly, like that they usually would do overseas. Like you don't advertise and tell people, oh, I'm the president of the United States. I'm going to show up tomorrow at 12 o'clock in Afghanistan. That doesn't make any sense. Usually, a president comes in discreetly, be respectful of the fact that you're in a very mournful, peaceful place, and photo ops for what it's worth should not be. And MD does have a point when it comes to funeral possession. Is it possessions or possessions? I'm not even sure if I'm saying the word correctly. Or any space where it entails a cemetery. Be respectful. If it even means you're walking into the space, because I've been to Arlington Cemetery. Let me tell you something. I made the mistake of driving in there, once because I had to, and I'm kind of going into DC and didn't know where I was going. It's a huge space, and it's a very solemn, quiet environment where from time to time you'll see a lot of activities regarding, either celebratory, meaning, in a respectful way of a deceased descendant of a military person or someone being buried in the space. So for you to do photo ops, is an absolute no-no. It should never be, and this is why you see her saying you expect better from the VP pick that he chose, because he was from the military. You know better. There's certain things you just don't do. Why are you taking pictures of, the photo op at that for publicity, at that for politics? Politics comes nothing into play here when it comes to, military stances. It's the most important stance you could make. Going into the military, serving your country, dying for your country at that, to respectfully protect our, rights and freedoms is a very important servitude decision that most people can't even make. If called to pick up arms to defend your country, is probably, and as a naturalized citizen, they even tell you, it is very dire that you take it serious. So for him to be, once upon a time at that the executive leader of the military branch, for you not to know better, it's kind of disappointing, and I can't expect anything less from, Agent Orange 45. He knows better, but choose not to. So, like MD says, where are those people that are hardcore, diehard military people that are not calling this out is beyond me. If we're going to look past this whole thing because it's Donald Trump, are you kidding me? If it was, the left, people would have been berserk at this point. Like, oh, dare you? Oh my God. But yet it's Donald Trump, so he get a pass. No, we're not going to do that. There's certain rules, there's certain etiquettes, there's certain decorums that we follow. And for the military, you do not do photo ops. You do not do politics. You do not do any of those things because on account of you're being respectful in a space that's solemn, that's very quiet, that's very reflecting of the fact that someone did the utmost importance for their country. Please stop doing this. It's one of those things where I hate when I see politicians go and do this whole, I'm going to take photo ops or I'm going to go to a cemetery. If you know at that, because I'm not very particularly fond of cemeteries on account of, ghosts and all that stuff, which, whether you choose to believe them or not, I'm just, when it comes to certain things, I'm just not really, unless it's someone that I know of that died, I will go. But even just walking the cemetery, it takes a lot. So you have to be very reflective of the space that you're walking in, and the fact that you're looking in an area where someone once lived. You know what I mean? That's the kind of decisions and stuff that you'd have to think about when going into that space. So I expected better from DT. He didn't do it, and let's move on. But let's call out the fact that there's diehard military people that are going, oh, it's Donald Trump. No, it's disrespectful. Don't do it again. And if we see you do it again, we're gonna call you out, and you should be kicked in your ass for doing it. Plain and simple.
All right, thanks, Ricardo. Before we go into the lame duck trash bag human of the week, I do want to get like a quick reaction of what's been going on with the Hamas killing hostages, and thoughts on like some Jewish people believing the issue is on Benjamin Netanyahu, and they're actually pointing a finger in his direction. He's the reason why they died. MD, your thoughts on that story this week?
Hey man, if you want confirmation that Netanyahu doesn't want this thing to end, like I don't know what else you need to point at. They've been working on this negotiation for how many weeks now? Before the DNC. Like, and for him to say that because of this situation, like I said, if I'm gonna be honest in the whole situation with the hostages that were killed, I don't think they telling us the whole story. Now that's just me. I could be wrong, but I don't think they're telling us the whole story with that. And for him to use this as a talking point to negate all the work that Blinken put in, and the mediators in Qatar and Egypt, like, bro, like, come on, man. At this point, this gonna sound harsh, but at this point, I'm like, hey man, if you just gonna blow the damn Gaza Strip up, just go ahead and get it over with. Because what you're doing right now is debilitating to what needs to be done overall when it comes to the region. That's just a fact. Netanyahu need to go. I don't know what it's going to take for the Israeli population to understand that. I mean, they do to a certain extent, but all the protesting that they doing in the streets. I mean, what is it? What is it amounting to, as it pertains to the entirety of the region? Nothing.
Do you feel that there's enough people in Israel going against him right at this moment, or no? That
I
he
mean,
has supporters?
if you look at what media is saying, no. But what is that equating to what's going on as of right now? But obviously that can't be true because he's still in office and been in office for a while. As a matter of fact, this is his second iteration in office. So it's hard to gauge based on what we can see. We only can see so much as people here in America. All we can do is go off of what the media tells us. And according to the media and the images that we see, they holding these weekly protests, not only about the situation in Gaza and getting the hostages back, but certain legislation that he's pushing in the Knesset in Israel. So, bro, it's an unfortunate situation. I just don't like to see the Gazan people being used as essentially pawns on the chessboard, so to speak.
Yep.
When it comes to foreign, and it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't, and like at all. We have to be more conscientious of what we allow and don't allow from a foreign policy standpoint. I won't disagree with a lot of the Palestinian protesters on that. What I disagree with is, why can't we differentiate our domestic policy versus our foreign policy? That's the issue I got with a lot of them lefty loonies that's out here meshing everything together, because it's not meshed together. But because you're basing your vote or your stance off of one issue, it puts the wrong amount of ingredients in the pot, so to speak. And that's the part I don't like. I'm not empathizing. I'm not saying I'm not empathizing with Palestinians, because I am. But we have to have priorities. We have to know how to consolidate and isolate certain positions. It ain't no one size fits all administration. It never has been, and it won't be.
Yeah, I agree with that. No, it's just a crazy situation that needs to end like immediately. Ricardo, what's your thoughts here on Benjamin Netanyahu being blamed for the hostages being killed, and any other points on that?
Yeah, it's a very unfortunate thing that took place in regards to those 6 hostages that lost their lives on account of this that's going on in the Middle East. Again, we were, I think we started TFP during that week when the whole thing started, with Hamas and those prisoners at that festival that they were attending. To see it escalate to what it is now, it's beyond egregious. It's like, I think it's almost 36,000 people, like Palestinians that have lost their lives, compared to the minute figure that we're seeing from the Israeli side. So it's kind of conflated, and it's kind of like unnecessary, just foolishness that's just going escalation wise to nowhere. But again, rest in peace to those people that lost their lives. This the whole negotiation thing between the Israelis and the other political states around the realm of this powder keg. It's been a lot of negotiations going on, and to see Netanyahu do the most and say the most at this point. I mean, he needs to go, but I don't know if the powers to be are nudging him or telling him or forcing him to. This is where it's going to affect Harris and Trump going into this election. Somebody is going to have to be able to say, we're not going to give you any more planes. We're not going to give you any more intelligence or reconnaissance information until you start, doing what we're telling you to do, because you can't be making decisions that is affecting the rest of the world here. But it's this power trip of, egotism and, a whole bunch of things in the works that when somebody doesn't want to leave, and this, if there's any indication of how a tyrant is, this is definitely it with Netanyahu. He is just not willing to leave. He doesn't want to go, but when the saying goes, absolute power corrupts absolutely, is 100% accurate. When you are that powerful, you kind of get warped into your delusions of grandeur, and you're not listening to when people are telling you, hey, this is not right. They don't care. It's a power trip mentality thing, and it doesn't help that it's war focused. So Netanyahu has to go. Like, I agree 100% with MD here. But who is willing to nudge him to go? Who is going to be the one that forced the iron fist here to tell him, hey, get to step in? We don't know. And it comes into play where a lot of things, there's certain things that you're now not able to say. Social media is in the mix of this. If I say I disagree with Israeli politics and still I'm immediately banned, or a whole bunch of stuff, people are not, it's all about free speech in this country. You are not able to wear certain emblems in support of what the atrocities that are taking place. There's a whole bunch of stuff here, and I think people got caught up in the propaganda. I remind people again, please be aware of what is propaganda compared to what is realism. And it's scary how we're not able to separate the two, and we're getting caught up into the mix of it. Know the difference, guys, and please, I beg you, don't get caught in the sauce, because it's all, at the end of the day, the same rhetoric over and over again. We're not moving anywhere. So in order to move the needle, Netanyahu has to go. Again, I feel so bad for those, people that died in the midst of the negotiations. Hopefully it comes to an end soon, and we'll see what happens.
All right. So we'll have to pay attention to that. This is just forever going. I thought this was going to stop by this point. We're going into a year now. It started in October. I think it was October 7th. We're almost in October of 2024. Yep. So this is ridiculous. This is not a war. It's a one-sided genocide. That's all it is. It's just one side is just dying all over the place, and the other side is just bombing. Their literal reaction to the bombings is accuracy is not important. Just drop the damn bomb. That's all they care about. They literally said accuracy is not important. Those jackasses are putting names of people that are against the war, like Cenk Uygur from TYT, Young Turks, and other people in the media. They're putting their names on the bombs that they're dropping on people in Gaza. So it's not about defending themselves at all. How you going to defend people when you are the bully? You're not defending anything. You are literally the cause. You're Heisenberg. I'm not running from the problem. I am the problem.
Yeah. Man, living in Gaza is basically saying, I wonder if today is going to be the day when I die. Pretty much.
Right.
And that's crazy.
And shouldn't be that way.
And that's not much living, to begin with. That's not much living at all. Talk about not getting heating or energy or whatnot. We were talking about earlier. They ain't got nothing.
Yeah, I mean it's deteriorated so bad that there's a polio outbreak in polio.
Right.
Like polio. That's a thing of the past in America.
Yeah.
And things are so bad in Palestine right now where old diseases are sprouting back up.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's.
But what's even crazier to me is those diseases went away because of what? Vaccines. same vaccines people in America somehow tripping out about. I don't get that. I don't get that. But whatever. That's for another day. Anyway, let's get to the lame duck of the week, the trash bag human of the week on the other side here.
First things first, in this lame duck session.
For the United Nations General Assembly to share the extraordinary progress we've made. In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. America's so true. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
You're trying your best, but it never feels like enough.
I started having second thoughts almost the moment I sat down on the plane.
Lights off! Off! Turn them off. They're too bright. Turn them off. Turn them off. Let's go. Ready? Turn.
We go back a long way. She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
So I changed my return flight and flew back on the first available flight I could take.
I'm sick and tired of smart guys. I'm sick and tired of ordinary people being fleeced. I'm tired of being quiet. I'm sick and tired. I'm just sick and tired. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
With great power comes great responsibility.
These lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. But I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones. You see? That's how far I've come. That's how far I've come. That's a long way, isn't it? These lights. You want to see a bird graveyard? You just go. Take a look. A bird graveyard? Go under a windmill someday. You'll see more birds than you've ever seen ever in your life.
I love coming to rural Missouri and seeing this beautiful farmland that our founding fathers fought for. And the crooks in Jefferson City that despise me have already sold it to China. But this beautiful face gets to end their corrupt political careers. Let's make Missouri great again. Before, if a man hit a woman, it used to land him in jail. Now, it gets you a gold medal at the Olympics. These are the worst Olympics in history. They have made a mockery out of Christianity and women. And let me remind you, there's no such thing as a chick with a dick. Keep women's sports female. This is what I will do to the growing books when I become Secretary of State. Let's go. Welcome to the main event. These books come from Missouri Public Library. When I'm in office, they will burn. Why don't we have a month celebrating American nationalism? Or a family month for all of the mothers and fathers out there that have fought for their children? Or even a pussy month for all of the pussies out there like John Lemon. BLM raised millions, but what did they do for Black lives? It is outrageous to see people asking for reparations, even though they never went through slavery. These ungrateful people should be celebrated because they were born in the greatest nation to ever exist. Here's a tip. If you don't like America, finally, get the fuck out. We need to make public executions great again for anyone that commits crimes against children. And I know of a budget and eco-friendly solution to this problem. I am more than happy to provide the bullets. Never give up your guns. And I cannot wait to help President Trump deport every illegal in America. So get your guns ready to protect your family and your property. So fuck you.
All right. That was a candidate for Secretary of State in the state of Missouri. Her name is Valentina Gomez, and she is a feisty person. She also is kind of going along with a specific brand of politics. Think Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert. But there's like some Latina flair with
literally
a lot too much flair, way too much flair.
Reparations from slavery and Black victimization is about to be shoved down our throats for the most wretched holiday in America. BLM raised millions, but what did they do for Black lives? It is outrageous to see people asking for reparations, even though they never went through slavery. These ungrateful people should be celebrated because they were born in the greatest nation to ever exist. Here's a tip. If you don't like America, kind of.
How did she get that way? I don't know. You know, if you weren't completely sure that she was playing up her hate for the camera, she actually wore a shirt that said "Don't be weak and gay" during Pride Month. So 2 bigotries, 1 video. It's very impressive that she was able to do that.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's a politician that's running for Secretary of State out of Missouri by the name of Valentina Gomez.
Reparations from slavery and Black victimization is about to be shoved down our throats for the most ratchet holiday in America. BLM raised millions, but what did they do for Black lives? It is outrageous to see people asking for reparations, even though they never went through slavery. These ungrateful people should be celebrated because they were born in the greatest nation to ever exist. Here's a tip. If you don't like America, get the f*** out.
Y'all, I'm not, this is not a joke. This is not a skit. This is on her page that she posted. So we have a Colombian immigrant who's running for public office in this country, talking down to Black Americans with BBL Drizzy, which was produced by Metro Boomin, to diss Drake, basically. Why didn't she use Colombian music to diss Black people? Why is she using the music of our community? I just got questions, ladies and gentlemen. That's number one. First of all, Valentina, you wouldn't even be in this country. It wouldn't be for Black Americans. That's first and foremost. Without the rights that we have fought for and the architects who built this country, how dare you come here to our country, the land that we built, and want to call Juneteenth ratchet? Do you even know what ratchet mean? I mean, you so fresh off the plane, you still got your accent and a thick one at that. But let's look at something here, because since she said that Juneteenth is ghetto, you mentioned in reparations, talking about shoving it down our throat. Ma'am, shoving it down your throat, this has nothing to do with you. Your homeland is in Colombia, ma'am.
Guys, it's 2024 and the DMs are still crazy. Let's get to it. We're gonna voice message from Alan. So let's hear it.
You are a bed with an assault rifle on your wall. I love it. Oh my God, we need more Americans like you.
Alan, thank you for your message. First of all, I am a woman of God, and AR stands for armor light, not assault rifle. And if every single American had a firearm on their hand, criminals would think twice about committing crimes. From Michael, let me know if you're looking for your first man. Michael, I'm married to the game.
She's married to the game. I love how in the beginning of that video, I think she's speaking into a bullet, right?
Yeah. That's what I was going to say too.
And like the cutaway to an explosion?
Yeah, of course.
You know, excellent editing skills, excellent.
And you know, good, when in Colombia, they wouldn't be paying attention to you. Because you probably on the blade in Colombia with some of them passport bros trying to holler at you in Colombia. But if you're a Republican and you're saying it's so ghetto, let me put something on the screen for y'all. This is from Trump's website, DonaldJTrump.com. Trump campaign statement commemorating Juneteenth. All slaves are free. This was the cry that rang out June 19, 1865. The principle of freedom has always been at the foundation of the Republican Party. Today we reflect on how far we have come as a nation, and remember that light will always triumph over darkness. With President Trump's leadership, our party will continue to advance the American dream for all people. If Trump on his website isn't calling Juneteenth ratchet, Valentina, then why are you doing it? Trump is the top dog in your party, right? Valentina. And then you got the nerve at the end to say, if we don't like something, then we need to get the F out. Like, y'all, this is the craziest video ever. We have a Colombian immigrant coming to our country, the country that our ancestors built, who's the architects of this country, telling the originators of this country, there was no Americans or black Americans built it, telling black Americans that if we don't like something, then we need to get the F out. Because this is not your conversation, Valentina. It's not your conversation. How dare you tell black Americans where we need to go? But this woman got the nerve gonna tell black Americans we need to get the F out. Like, while playing black American music at the same time. This woman don't know what she want to do. You want to be an anti-black racist while using black people's music. Then you have the nerve enough to go get your own music. Y'all, we live in the twilight zone, ladies and gentlemen. We are living in the twilight zone right now. You can't make any of this mess up. A Colombian immigrant telling black Americans that we need to get the F out. and this woman is not solidified in this country.
Let's get into the final remarks of Valentina Gomez.
That was the most fun I've ever had. I put the fear of God on these groomers, pedophiles, and corrupt politicians. I want to thank the 47,000 people that voted for me. We rejected millions, almost got arrested, shot big, beautiful guns, triggered every liberal in America, didn't pay for ads, got hundreds of millions of views, and we did it all without holding a single fundraiser. Hollywood, the establishment, and the Democrats all came after me because I didn't want this gay shit being shoved down our throats, men in women's sports, and babies getting killed. And yes, I lost this election. But I'm young, beautiful, and rich as fuck. Let's make America great again.
And then she was never ever heard from ever again. Yeah, she's a grifter and a liar. And you know what the best part is? We'll never have to deal with her ever again. She failed so spectacularly she cannot run. But she did prove one thing, that apparently the 46,000 people who actually did vote for her, despite her claims, show that there is an appetite for hatred, especially on the right. So, kind of speaks to where the Republican Party's at. And then you wonder why we regard you guys as genociders.
All right. There she goes. There she is. Put the spotlight on number 54. Trash bag humor of the week, Valentina Gomez. This piece of trash scum bucket, in her primary election, which she lost, didn't place number 2, not number 4, not number 6, but 7th in her primary. She came in at 7. She failed spectacularly, and she was only able to garner 46,000 votes altogether. So, MD, what do you think about the trash bag humor of the week, Valentina Gomez?
So yeah, Van Cat, man, I must disagree with you on this. I think what she did was brilliant. From a marketing standpoint, brilliant. She grifted. The last guy said everything that you needed to hear. She saw an opportunity in a state like Missouri, which is very fickle when it comes to how they view politics. I think Missouri is one of those rarities in the country where it's highly conservative, yet they don't know which way to go when it comes to a lot of their politics. She saw an opportunity and she seized upon the moment. Listen to the way she talked. Again, she held no fundraiser. She didn't have any type of FEC filing. She didn't have to do nothing but get online and cuss and say MAGA stuff. And she got hundreds of thousands of dollars in the process, which she did not spend, just like she just said, in any type of campaign. And when it comes to ad or anything like that, She got the bag, and now you don't need to hear from her no more. So I would call it, yes, true enough. She may be a trash bag human. Duck, I don't know. Because if anybody's a duck, it's the 47,000 people of Missouri that vote for her. I'm the lame duck. Because they got a couple 20s or whatever. All for the talking about God and country and guns and stuff. So yeah, I mean, hey, they got smoke blew up their ass in a monumental way by a Colombian that barely can speak English, no less. Like this the word, man, cat. This is what it is.
This is a work.
It's definitely a work. It's definitely a work. Now, I will have to reprimand you by playing Phil Scott of the Africa Diaspora Channel. Now that wasn't.
You always hate everybody. MB hates everybody. I can't believe it.
Now you use that as a reference. That's fine. But if you go further on in the catalog, he would lump people like Ricardo and Trevor in that same piece of coal as it pertains to immigrants. So I mean, I get it. Get the references where you need to get them from.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm just letting you know. Hell, he might throw you in there, even though you in U.S. territory. I don't think that matter.
I'm sure.
Might throw you in. Yeah. I'm real selective on the people that I listen to, Van Cat. You already know that. So a lot of the sources, they bad apples to me.
Yeah.
To me, I ain't saying to everybody. To me, and Phil Scott's. Like, again, that goes back, and I hate to reiterate this again. This issue of immigration, it goes far beyond the base level of what we see. This is deeply rooted in what a lot of people, especially a lot of Black Americans, feel that are getting divvied up. Now, I can attest to it, and I can empathize with it to a certain extent. But I won't let that, I guess you would say, corrupt my political view. And a lot of Negroes is doing that right now. And it's troubling, like real troubling. Even to the point where we going to have to sit down and have a real conversation about how we view blackness, how we view, hell, it ain't necessarily about blackness, how we view people that are not from this country, that are immigrants from this country, how we view them from a social standpoint of what the entirety of America is. That's a huge part of this election, not just from a ethnic standpoint, just from a status standpoint. And this person is a full representation of that. All I have to do is as close as a proximity of quote unquote whiteness as I possibly can, and I can have these people eating out the palm. And she did just that.
Yep. So we need to have a Politics of Blackness Part 3. What is black?
There it is.
Next week.
Oh, sweet. Hey, second quarter.
We need that. All right.
I said Yanga need to be up here.
Yeah.
Jesse need to be here. I'm inviting all people because we got Bud back.
Yeah, we need Trevor on here too.
Trevor and Yame, all these people, anybody out here say black from this point up until next week, I'm giving them the link to the show.
Yeah.
Just say black. I don't care what context it's in.
All right, so we're doing that next week. Politics of Blackness Part 3. What is black? We got to define this, man. Ricardo, what do you think here about our lame duck, number 54, trash bag human of the week, Valentina Gomez?
I mean, what is there to say? I mean, Valentina, just like I said, Valentina Gomez. Oh, so there's a lot of conflicting things with what she did, but I will say I echo the sentiments of MD. She was very smart in terms of the marketing, ploy of all of this. For you to still end up with 47,000 people voting for you, and you didn't do diddly squat, it speaks volumes as for how the far right at this particular point views hatred and how much that vitriol and all of that nonsense is really adding fuel to the fire of, I guess, a segment of the population that feel disenchanted and feel like their voice is not being heard, or for whatever the reason, just get caught up in the vitriol nonsense that that's being fed and being manipulated by it. It's just one of those things where I cannot wrap my head around the fact that she's from Colombia at that. Yes, we remind you that Colombia is not in one of the greatest spaces, but it's a beautiful country. I will give you that. Beautiful woman at that. The Passport Brothers will tell you is a gold mine for a plethora of things. So take that for what it's worth. But Valentina, really and truly though, your talking points were just mute. But one of the troubling things was that the guy in the video, and I hate to say it as well, that MD does bring up a point. There seems to be, and I heard it today during Yanga's little video conference that he had in terms of his return back to the YouTube space. It is very troubling that there's a lot of and this whole immigration talk, it seems to be spiraling out of control for me. And like I had to bring it up in the show today, I'm a naturalized citizen that immigrated from Jamaica, and being from the Caribbean basin, a lot of times I hear a lot of stuff where even Americans to this day don't even know that the U.S. Virgin Islands is an actual territory of the U.S. It's a part of the United States. So is Puerto Rico. So is Guam. So is the U.S. Samoan Islands.
And I met with the president of the Virgin Islands. These are people that are incredible people. They've suffered gravely.
It's crazy. It's nuts. I don't know if, and I don't want to come off as an elitist or an uppity Negro or whatever you want to come up with, but it's one of those things I want to implore people, just do geography and understand. Just look up anything that says American Islands and then go from there, because I'm just confused. But the immigration stance of, us versus them, and you're not black enough, and y'all don't do unity, and you guys are stepping into our space, and y'all should be grateful that you're here on account of us. And what are we doing? Because we're doing literally the talking points of white supremacy, and they're literally getting away with the fact that they're saying, hey, look, those morons are doing exactly what we gave them or predicated on what we wanted them to do 300 years ago. We're still doing the same crab in the bucket mentality and foolishness of, I think I'm better than you, or you think you came and you stole what is owed to me, and you're not deserving of. What are we doing? Like, this is crazy talk to me that I just cannot fathom. And it's spoiled because we're now seeing it affecting the presidential election. I didn't see it. Well, no, I'm a liar. I did see it during Obama, but I think the fact that Obama was half white probably gave him a little bit more push. Maybe that's what it is, because Obama, again, is half white, half black. So it wasn't good enough, because if he was blackity black, it would have been a huge issue. But now we have a woman that doesn't, again, because Jamaicans don't identify, they would never say, oh, I'm blackity black. Why do we need to shout that from the roof? We already know we're black. So there's a difference between I'm going to say I'm blackity black versus I already know I am. It's kind of like, why am I stating the obvious when you already know I am? It's like, what are we doing here? This is crazy to me. I just don't understand where we're going with this. And again, there's multiple and different shades of black. You have seen it on the Fox interview where we saw last week with the commentator Ford, when the guy was literally going on and on about, hey, put this on, and like making a mockery of him. What are we doing in this country? We need to get out of this frame of mind and cut it out. I'm not going to go on on record and say I wasn't the type of person that would be like, yeah, years ago, oh, such and such and blah, blah, blah. But to tie this all in with Valentina Gomez and her crazy ass self, we're literally doing this whole vitriol about immigration, and in here she's talking about Black Lives Matter and how dare we talk about reparations and get out of this country. No, you get out of this country. You're coming from another country and you're telling people who live here or actual descendants from this country to get out of the country that they're living in. Like, does that make any form of sense to you, Valentina? That doesn't make sense. And she's not the only person with this rhetoric that I've heard before, that I need people from the Hispanic side to calm it down on. Y'all are also mixed with a lot of things, including blackness, that you all refrain and hide from. Cough, cough, the people from Dominican Republic, cough, cough, some people from Puerto Rico, and the rest of the Latin American region. We all hide this blackness of, oh, I'm not black, but oh, I'm somehow mixed with a whole bunch of stuff. It doesn't make a damn difference. You still, when I look at you, would be black. And that's the same thing, the same point I was trying to bring up today again. When a white person look at somebody black, they're not going to go, oh my God, MD is different because he's from over here, or oh no, Venkat is different. They're going to say, oh no, you look black. So what are we doing here? Like, we're doing a whole bunch of talking points that it seems to be hinting to the white supremacists that are going, hoorah, we're winning here because we got them spiraling out of control. Like, this is crazy. This is all mumbo jumbo gibberish, and here I am nigga babbling, which doesn't even make any damn sense to begin with. But I digress. She is really the trash bag of the week, but she's super duper smart, and I give her credits for at least not even doing a whole bunch of promotion for this and still got 47,000 votes for people to vote for her. Kudos to you, Gomez, but you still fall flat on your face, coming in at lucky number 7. So great job, bravo to you. But girl, do better, because you coming in speaking vitriol, and you're an immigrant. So and that doesn't even come out good, speaking from my point of view. But hey, I'm also an immigrant. So what do I know? I can tell you as a naturalized citizen who was also an immigrant. I know the laws of the land. I immerse myself into the figures of this land, and I don't go on the vitriol of speaking ill will or speaking negatively about people that are trying to come into this country and do better. Like, do better. That's all I got to say regarding this, and I'll shut up. Just do better, people. The rest of y'all that are out there, do better as well. This is not a good look. It's really not. But I digress.
Yeah, she's talking bad about black people while simultaneously using black people's music.
Everybody want to be a nigga, but nobody want to be a nigga. How about that question?
Yep. It's sad to see. Same old story. Always bashing black, but want to be black. All right. So we've come to the end of the show today. So we're going to do our final sign off for the evening. So we're going to start with Ricardo. Ricardo, final sign off.
Yeah, great show. There's so much things going on right now in this world that I can't even keep up anymore. Like, we knew this was going to be the case, but my golly, man, it is a lot. I want to just extend a kudos to both MD and Venkat. We're taking time out to entertain y'all out there in TFP world. I think it's the same week, like I mentioned, when the whole conflict got it, that we started our show, and we're still here. So I implore everybody again to know your politics, do better in this world, and understand how propaganda works, and just stay above all of that nonsense that we're seeing, and just do better. That's all I can say. Just do better, man, and stop with this nonsense. Most of y'all out there, this immigration stance, and I'm blacker than you, and you ain't black, and you're not deserving of being in my space and my money, and reparations ain't for you, and you're not fighting the same way. Like, what are we doing? Let's not do that. Come on, we can do better. I implore you all to do better. Once you're black, you're black. That's it. MD could be black and be black. Venkat could be a brown black. Mr. Straight Talk could be, light skinned black. It doesn't even make a difference. We're all black. So let's cut this out. Let's just progress forward and try to do things in a kumbaya stance that would be unity and not dissonance. And I'll leave it at that. Great job, guys.
All right, thank you, Ricardo. Okay, MD, final sign off, sir.
Yes, sir. Great show as always, man. Very poignant topics tonight. Again, man, hey, I can't wait for next week. Cause man, like I said, man, it's reached a boiling point, in my opinion, as far as the perception of how we equate policy and identity identity as a whole, generally, and I think it's the wrong way to go. It's not a good look in terms of true reparationist perspective, which I am a reparationist wholeheartedly. But the way that we go about identity politics is not the move, and I'm sick of it at this point. It all came to a head, and I'll be discussing this Thursday. It all came to a head this Sunday with the California reparations bill that got shot down by the Democrats. I'll be discussing that and more on Thursday, general discussion. Because again, we use these political losses, we use rhetoric that's being parroted, all these different tactics in the wrong way. And like I said, again, I have my own interpretation of black, but I will never allow that interpretation to be game, set, match as it pertains to my political reality, because that would be stupid, and it's not accessible to the general population as a whole. So we'll be talking about all that, man. I can't wait for next week though, because next week, if you got an interpretation of black just like I do, your ass need to be front and center, because I want to hear it. And I'm gonna be blunt as I can, and I would believe that everybody else should be too.
All right, thank you, MD. I'd like to thank everybody on the panel, of course, MD, Ricardo, our ODB, Mike, and of course our DEI hire, Jeremy. So we got. Of course, we always want to thank Tequila, Mr. Straight Talk, Bones, everyone else associated with Straight Talk Society. Again, we'll see you next week for the show entitled The Politics of Blackness 3, What is Black? And we anticipate a very spirited, passionate, and engaging conversations on the topics. So I am definitely looking forward to that, especially with the recent videos we've seen and discussions we've seen on multiple channels within our community here. So it'll be great that we can get together and have that conversation in a major way. Until next week, for MD, for Ricardo, for everyone else at Straight Talk, have a great evening, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.
She just said a terrible thing. You know what she said? Shout it out, because I don't want to. Okay, you're not allowed to say, and I never expect to hear that from you again. She said, I never expect to hear that from you again. She said he's. That's terrible. Terrible.